Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast, is brought to you by you. If you want to learn how to support our podcast network, head to patreon.com/laststandmedia.
Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast. I'm your host, Dagan Dagster Moriarty. The hair is a little crazy today, but let me tell you something. I smell like a dream. I got the new deodorant.
Oh.
Now listen, body odor, not essential for podcasts, but that's the level of quality we like to bring here on Last Stand Media. Right? When we figure out the scratch and sniff podcast, we're going to have it locked up. So look like a monster, smell like a dream. And man, the weeks are flying by. I can't believe it's time for another episode. Lots of moving parts this week. Me and the boys were just discussing. First, we were originally going to have Micah, hence 3 and not 4 this week. Micah got jammed up. Colin's recording another podcast. Micah has to be there for the HVAC guy, I think, is coming today. They give you that window of like, we'll be there from 8 in the morning to 8 at night. You never know when they're going to pop up. So she couldn't do it. And then we had another dude who shall remain nameless. Thanks, Brad.
Yeah.
Bang in sick on us. He banged in sick. Brad, we hope you feel better, Mr. Ellis. We'll see you on the next one. Had a great topic. I'm not going to spoil the topic. We were just discussing it. Dustin was particularly excited about this one. We'll save it for another day. It's okay. We just hope Brad feels better. But listen, I'm very pleased with how this all shook out. Look who I'm looking at right now. 2 of my faves. One in particular, a hero. Locke stepped in last minute, 0 hour, stepped in and said, I'll do it. Hands on the hips, cape blowing in the breeze. Right? Locke. We just figured out we haven't even seen you this year yet.
Yeah.
Right? I haven't even seen you on Constellation for 2025. It's nice to see you, my friend. Thanks for stepping in. How you been?
I'm good. My hair is also super wild. But I smell really bad, so it doesn't really even out. But
we complement each other.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm good. I was enjoying it's funny because like an hour ago, I was thinking, I have nothing planned tonight. I can just do whatever. I'm going to play some video games, watch some TV, just relax. And then at that moment, one of my friends called and asked me, I need your help. Can you come outside right now? We're going to have dinner. Like, okay, well, I guess. And then at that very second, Micah messaged me and told me, like, we need you right now on Constellation. Can you fill in for Brad? He's sick. I'm like, oh, well, I guess, okay. Yeah, sure. We'll do everything. So, yeah, Friday night is occupied night. But that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I like seeing you guys always.
I love having you on the show. You saw, I'm thinking it's like visions of the bat symbol going up. You know what I mean? What would the LSM bat symbol be? What would that be?
It's got to be the moon, don't you think? Like the moon logo.
Yeah. How can I even ask that question? Of course it is.
That would be sick to see projected.
Yeah.
In the clouds.
I think we got something here.
Yeah.
Who's that guy? Now, who's that guy over there talking to us? The other guy. I was going to say one of Colin's sons. Colin's favorite son? Colin's younger son? You're a little younger than Chris. Is that correct?
I think Chris is a little younger than me.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
So you're the eldest
son.
You're the, I don't know, what do you call it? The heir.
The heir.
The heir to the throne?
Let's hope. I don't own the company, but I think that if Colin dies, Micah gets the company. So
I know. Well, before pre-Micah, you were the heir.
Yeah.
You might have to. There's going to be some kind of Hamlet action going on between you and Micah. Battle of the throne. Dust, what's going on, dude?
Hello. I'm happy to be here. Happy to see you, Dig. Happy to see Lockmort. Locke and I used to talk a lot, and then Hamlet situation betrayed me. Converted my friend group into Overwatch 2 fans. And now we never play together because I'm not playing that slop.
Maybe your friends just got sick of you and wanted to get rid of you. Just used Overwatch as an excuse.
Yeah.
Ever thought about that?
Unfortunately, yes.
Oh, no, that's not the case. Oh, no.
No, I'm just kidding. So it's good to be here with you guys. I have to open this with a selfish question for you guys, because I know you guys are two of Last Stand's TV enthusiasts.
Mm-hmm.
Are either one of you watching Severance right now?
I'm saving it.
You're saving it. Okay,
Really?
let's start with you, Locke. You're saving season 2 or the whole show?
I'm saving season 2. Yeah.
Locke, you're on thin ice. Not with me.
Oh,
The spoilers out there.
That's true, but I've muted it everywhere. So far, I haven't seen anything, and they're on episode 2 or 3 right
4.
now. I think 4. Oh well, I haven't seen anything. So
Wow.
yeah, but
you
it's
are
good,
in for a treat because this season is killing it. Now, Dag,
yeah.
you've not seen it at all.
No, have not seen this. Now, Locke, you saw the first season.
Yes.
Okay, liked it, savoring it. You're waiting till they all drop, and then you're going to go in and just binge season 2? Is that how you're doing it?
In one day, yeah.
No, this one's on the top of my list. This might be the only show right now that exists. Now that I caught up on The Bear, which I loved.
Ooh.
This might be the only show that I haven't gotten around to yet that I really do want to watch.
Yeah.
But no experience with it, but also completely unspoiled. Have no idea. I know it's like a little dystopian, a little strange. It's on Apple, right?
Yep.
But and I know the lead, what is his name?
Adam Scott.
Adam Scott. That's all I know. That's literally all I know. So it's going to be nice going in. If I could just remain that way, it's going to be, I shouldn't wait too much longer though, I'm assuming.
No.
Okay.
No, start tonight. Or
all right, maybe I will.
Yeah.
Dagan, I mean, honestly, I recommend Severance to literally everybody, so maybe this is meaningless. But this is Dagan ass TV right here.
Okay. I love it.
It's ready. To the point, and sacred listeners have heard me a million times, so I'm sorry. But I was a little late to the first season, so I got to watch it all when it came out. And that was in, I think, 2021 or 2.
That sounds right.
And so it has been years between seasons.
Oh,
like
wow.
literal years.
Yeah.
And season 1 ends on a crazy cliffhanger. So when this season 2 started, it was an amazing, like, finally moment.
Yeah. Payoff.
And this season has not disappointed at all.
Really?
And it's to the point where I watch it immediately when it comes out Thursday nights at 9 p.m. And no joke, like, I'm not exaggerating, I am obsessed with this show. I go on the subreddit, read what everyone's saying. I watch multiple videos breaking down the episode. Holly and I probably talk about it every day. I text my friends who watch it and I'm like, what about this? There's so many theories and different elements, and the cinematography is amazing. It just,
I'm missing out.
From top to bottom, this show is a 10 out of 10. Like, I mean, I don't know. It eventually could nosedive, especially with a show this weird.
Yeah.
It always makes me nervous that they could get a little too weird with it.
Yeah.
But so far, I'm like, this has been one of my absolute favorite TV shows, movies, whatever, period.
I haven't heard a bad thing. I haven't heard a single bad thing. And Holly really loves it too, because that adds another dimension to it in the household. If you're both savoring it like this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Holly and I mean, right before we started recording, I was downstairs and Holly was making lunch and we were talking about it. Like, it's mainly a lot of theories and speculation. So, Dave, do you know what the show's about at all?
I really don't. It does strike me as one of those things, you guys know I'm notorious for spoiling things. And really, I often have the take of, like, it doesn't ruin it. Like, I just want to see it. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter if it was spoiled. Sure. But this show strikes me as one that really shouldn't be, like, the quality would be so much better if you're just surprised and you go in for the cliffhangers and the eventual payoffs and have your theories. I love that it's not available to just binge and that they're trickling them out, because it seems like a show like this would lend itself to it. But honestly, I don't know anything besides a few images in my head that I've seen of like a very sterile office environment and stuff. Beyond that, I really don't know much.
I was going to give you like a 2-sentence synopsis, but maybe it's better to just raw dog it.
I don't know. I don't know. I see. Normally I wouldn't feel like that would spoil it for me, because a lot of it is like, the believing is in the seeing, if that makes sense. I have to see how it's visually realized, and the acting is a big part of it, and the ideas. It's funny though. Usually I'm pretty studied on stuff. I might not even be like invested in, but I don't even know who created the show or anything. I really know nothing.
So the guy that wrote it is like a new writer that he was working at a door factory writing this show.
What?
And he submitted it to Ben Stiller.
Yeah.
And Ben Stiller, one of his, people in his company read it and then gave it to him and was like, you got to read this. And now he's the guy that wrote it, I can't remember his name. He's the showrunner. And Ben Stiller is like the primary director of the show.
I did. You know what's funny that you said that? I forgot all about that. A week or two ago, I saw something in passing about Ben Stiller's involvement in that show. And I was like, weird. And then I kind of forgot about it.
Yeah.
Which is that just makes it more intriguing. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Kind of makes sense, but it's also like, wow, that's kind of like the part of the fascination.
Right.
I got to see what all the hype's about. It's definitely one of those shows. The last time this happened, or 2 times ago this happened with Succession, I talk about it a lot. I wasn't in love with it, and I want to give it another chance. Then it happened recently with The Bear, where I do love it. So I'm going in with some optimism. Yeah, coming off of the Bear journey, which has just been awesome.
How come you didn't like Succession?
I don't know, Locke. I really honestly don't know. I was riding that hype train. It was built up. I finally jumped in. I binged it really quickly, which is doesn't necessarily mean anything. I binged Game of Thrones really quickly and loved it. Absolutely adored it. So I don't know. I think I just wasn't, there was something about the show where it just felt like whatever was going on with me, I just wasn't on the right footing to enjoy that show. Like the characters although the acting was amazing.
Phenomenal.
I mean, Kieran Culkin is like, oh, dude. I mean, but like everybody in that show to a person, but there was just something about the level of obnoxiousness of every character that I just wasn't ready for it. I just couldn't find I couldn't dial in on something to hook me. I saw it through and I actually loved the ending. Loved the ending.
Perfect.
The ending was brilliant. The ending kind of brought me from like, oh, that was okay to like, oh, all right. I think I need to go back in and start this from the beginning. So I don't know what it is about that show, but I definitely feel like it was me. It wasn't the show. You know what I mean? It has to, it was like, it's me, not you type of thing. You know what I mean? So I have to go back. But then, I was really reticent to start The Bear because I heard really good things. Like this is golden age of TV worthy Sopranos, Mad Men level shit. And I was like, oh, really? And then I was like, yeah, I get by almost the end of season 2, I was like, yeah, I get that. Like this, when this show hits, it's that good. So I'm riding that wave of optimism going in now to Severance.
Nice.
Yeah, I have to see this, dude. It's another one of those things where I never heard a bad thing about it.
It's weird that I felt like after season 1, I was surprised it wasn't more popular than it was. I think now with season 2, it's really starting to get recognition, and I'm happy about that. But yeah, it's I'm trying to avoid saying anything for story related, but there's so many ethical quandaries with the show. It's like it's more than just the speculation of the plot. There's a lot of ethical things that are very, very unique. So I'll leave it at that.
I love it too. And you know what? I think a lot of that, and sort of my grudge with The Bear going in was like, oh, Hulu, you kind of have that name brand thing of like, you're expecting HBO, right?
Right.
Is Severance Apple's first real breakout sort of serious Emmy contenders series, like not non-comedic, I guess, because it's when you get into the drama stuff, I feel like it's on a different level, not better or worse, but I just feel like it operates on a whole different plane.
Yeah. They've had a couple of shows that were really great. For All Mankind was from Apple.
I don't even know it.
Colin makes that one.
That's it. Okay. It's a great show. It's not on the same level as Severance, but it's still really good. It should, I think, it should be nominated for stuff. Silo, which just had its second season, is also really good. Also not on the same level as Severance.
Okay.
But they do have, I think, The Morning Show, which I think is not great, but a lot of people love it. They do have a couple of shows which are like really high quality.
Okay.
At least.
What's that show that they have a show with Harrison Ford?
Yeah.
Oh, Shrinking?
And Jason
Shrinking.
Segel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I think that's a comedy.
Yeah.
So
Looks
but
good, though.
I've heard it's good. And
Yeah,
then
Helene likes that one.
probably their biggest hit, which also not serious, is Ted Lasso, which
Oh, yeah.
Of
that's
course.
great. Yeah.
Of course. Brilliant show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant show. I really enjoyed Ted Lasso. I forgot all about Ted Lasso.
I think they're thinking about making a new season now, even though it ended.
Oh,
Oh.
really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they're going to go into prequel or sequel territory?
No,
or just,
sequel. Just do it
Really?
again. Continue. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was weird to end that show. They
Well,
kind of ended it when it was kind of like riding its crest, which is strange.
Yeah. The last season was a little bit weird. Like
I didn't watch it.
it's kind of like they just wrapped it up.
I don't think
and
I
then it
got
was-
that far.
Oh.
I don't
okay.
think I got into the last season. What did they end after 4 seasons?
Yeah. Four
Yeah,
seasons.
I didn't see the 4th season. Okay.
It wasn't on the same level as the other 3. It was
Yeah,
still
that
good, but
sucks.
it was weird. Yeah.
Now, let me ask one thing about Severance. Is there a projected number of seasons / ending in store like they did for Stranger Things, or is it open still?
I think that if I recall correctly, they are like, we have this show mapped out from beginning to end. We're not sure about the amount of seasons we want to do that.
Okay.
Because technically, I was reading today that season 3 technically hasn't been greenlit, but they have started. The writer's room is already starting. So I can't imagine that it wouldn't be greenlit. Like there's no possibility with how
could it not?
popular and how excited people are for it. So I would hope, I feel like the golden amount of seasons is probably 5.
Yeah.
Though because the problem is I think a lot of shows push to 7, and that's when the fatigue kind of sets in.
That's
So
when trouble starts.
I would love to see a 5-season show. Honestly, if they only did 3 or 4, if the story feels complete, that's fine to me. If it's shorter too.
Sure.
But I really hope it's not one that drags on for a long time.
Yeah, I can't see it doing that. Not if it's this good already. You know, because I like that template too of having it mapped out. It's very thoughtful, but not knowing exactly how you're going to arrange the parts to arrive there. That's a great way to kind of be, you know, kind of whimsical and open to changing it and molding it and sculpting it, but also having a target.
Right.
That's very smart.
The
Very
craziest
smart.
thing too, and Locke, I know you will agree with this, is it is shocking how detailed the show is in subtle ways. I told Holly, there's all of these theories about the movie The Shining that are like crazy people that are analyzing the background that means nothing.
Yeah.
This is the complete opposite of that, where every detail matters. Everything is intentional. It is shocking where there's stuff that in season 2, they'll be like, remember this detail or this background thing or how this was mentioned. Even stuff just from a cinematography perspective, like the use of colors, different symbolism in the background, things like that. That level of detail is what draws you in to these theories and reviewing and watching old episodes and seeing what people post online. You're like, holy shit, I totally didn't even notice that.
I love that.
Nothing in the show is by mistake at all.
Yeah.
And it's shocking the level, that detail in combination with the continuity of the detail. That makes sense.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely. That level of depth and quality, kind of irresistible. Let me ask you that. I know we're talking a lot about Severance, but I have to ask you this question, and it kind of related to Severance, but just good TV in general. Severance is kind of slowly revealing itself as more episodes come out or whatever, but you're so hooked, Dust, you and Holly and legions of fans, right? Do you go back and because of this, that level of depth makes for insane rewatchability, right? Because you want to go back and see, they foreshadowed this. Let me go back. Do you go back and watch episodes, or are you just kind of going through clean, one and done as you go along, and eventually you'll go back maybe in between seasons if you get, you can't steal yourself away or whatever? Or are you just going in one and done and just then, kind of like bandying about your theories and all that kind of shit?
Yeah. So I rewatched the first season before going into 2. So
That's a good way to do it.
And that was extremely helpful. Just to remember all the, because like I said, it had been like 2 years. So that was extremely helpful. The episode 3, so last week's episode, I ended up watching twice so I could watch it again with my friend because it was so good. And then last night, after we finished the episode, we went and we were like scrolling around like fucking maniacs, like Charlie with the board from It's Always Sunny. Like, remember this part? What about this part? How does this connect? And then I'll end up watching a Million Theory like breakdown episodes on YouTube of that people do as well, which is kind of like rewatching the episode because you see the different scenes over and over. And then I mentioned the continuity stuff. People will put together like how this from season 1 connects to this, how that is interconnected. So there's a lot. And the thing is too, I want to be clear that you don't have to do that with this show.
Okay.
And that's the nice part, is that it's not some convoluted mess of like, oh, you have to be this involved with it in order to get it. It's just a lot more rewarding if you want to put that investment into it.
That's well said. Yeah. Because there's you could take it on different levels. If you want to get really intense with it and get deep, let's go there, you know? Yeah. I like having that option, or you could be more casual about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm ready for this one. I mean, it's it's overdue. The only thing, my only flop sweat with stuff like this, if it gets off, you guys have to encourage me. If it gets off to a slow start, like let's say the first couple of episodes, it's building that head of steam. Then you have to, I'll be worried. Then I'll be like, oh my God. Then I'll go into a Succession thing where I'll be, I don't know if I like this. Like people are saying I should like it. You know what I mean? Should I give it time, or does it immediately start? And
I was immediately in on episode 1. Okay. I've heard some people say that it wasn't until like episode 2 or 3, like they liked it, but I think most people, I don't know. Locke, were you in episode 1 or were you?
I was in, but it is a slow burn. Like you have to, because you won't know what's going on until,
okay.
It's just, you have to go with it. That's the best advice I can give you. Don't give up. Even if you find it maybe a little bit boring in the first episode. I loved it, but I also know people who found it boring after the first episode. But if you continue, it'll hook you at some point for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
There's like the thing too, man, I'm sorry. I'm like waxing poetic. Hopefully the audience isn't bored. But what I saw someone tweet that was like, it's amazing that people love Severance. And I think a lot of it has to just do with it's a show where things actually happen, where there's so many shows that, and don't get me wrong, I love shows that are slow burns as well. But there's something that happens in season 2. There's things that happen that I didn't expect to happen for a while, and things that reveals in season 1 too that you're like, whoa, midway through. Things that you would expect to be season closers are just plot like things that
that's
happen.
Cool. See, that's cool. I like that. Yeah, non-plot driven TV was the trend for a while. Like leaning on characters, leaning on stories about nothing, not just Seinfeld, but the way it evolved from that kind of things into drama, right? But the plot things, essential for movies, but in TV, for a while it was about, the world building and the characters. But a show with a proper plot and mystery and cliffhangers and payoffs and stuff, that sounds like just the right medicine right now.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
If you look at The Bear, that's the exact opposite. That's like completely character different, but it also works.
100%.
So,
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it, but it's nice to have a remedy for that.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's cool.
There's certain shows that Mad Men is a show, which things definitely happen in that show, but there's certain episodes where it's like, this is just an episode that's kind of about this thing that happens to this character. 100%. And it's interesting regardless of that. It doesn't need to be, not every show needs to be the plot, but when you have a show that is so plot driven and it's like, this episode is kind of just delaying the things you want to know, that's when it gets frustrating. And I don't think that's the case here. Yeah,
that's cool. That's really cool. My only worry is that Helene's not going to, I want to jump into it with her because it makes sense. We both haven't seen it. And I like that kind of thing of like, we could just bounce ideas off each other and do our own version of like the household water cooler talk about it. Like we did with The Bear, we kind of enjoyed that together too.
Recommendation? start One Piece together. You'll have something to talk about for 2.5 years.
Oh, no, don't do it.
That's
Don't
what Holly
do
and we had stuff to talk about every day for 2.5 years. It was great. And we still do with the manga. So
That's right. Yeah.
suggestion,
That's
Locke, I'll talk about it with you if you want to start.
No, sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
he's in.
Locke, One Piece podcast. 1 episode a week.
Mm-hmm. How much am I getting paid for that?
Well, I'm not getting paid either. So.
Oh.
Yeah, that's true. All right. I like it. I'm going to jump in. I'll let you guys know how it goes.
Text me.
Yeah.
You'll report 100%.
If you don't want to get to it for a while, that's fine. But if you do,
No, I think it's going to be this weekend for sure.
If you do end up
Nice.
watching it, I would love for you to text me. Especially, I know there's moments where you're going to be like, oh fuck, and you're
Oh, I love
just send me
it.
a text because
I'm excited.
I've done that with a few of my friends that have watched it. That I was like, you'll know when to text me.
Oh,
Just
see,
text
that's
me because I just want to know how you're feeling.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like this show definitely has its red wedding moments, right? Like
yeah.
those key moments that are like super memorable. Okay, I'm in. Say no more, my friend. My only thing now with the topics, again, sort of we had a little bit of a rough time putting this show together. Not really, but you know what I mean. Lots of moving parts, lots of moving pieces. Dust, the only thing I want to ask you is you had a topic sort of particularly pegged for a specific group of people. Brad fell ill, right?
Right.
You still feel comfortable doing this topic? It's totally fine with me. But if you want to do one on the fly and save this one, I'm also okay with that.
I was thinking if I wanted to change, but Lockmort said this one was good for him as well.
All right.
It might be a short one. That's okay.
All right.
And I'm just being fully selfish this episode. I opened and took over the first 25 minutes.
I love it.
So this is a very selfish topic as well, because it's one of my favorite things of all time. So let's just go with it.
Let's go. And you know what? I want to start off with this topic because Locke has a video game topic that I want to sandwich right in the middle.
Yeah.
Video game related topic that I think people will enjoy. Want to put that right in the center. So Dust, if you don't mind, kick us off with this first topic. I'm ready. I'm all caffeinated up.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
My topic for today is coffee, which my coffee here is empty because I already drank it. But I've wanted to talk about coffee for a while, but oddly, Last Stand is filled with non-coffee drinkers overall. Like Colin,
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Colin doesn't drink coffee. Chris is kind of a on it, but Dagan, I know you might be the second most coffee lover in our group. I think Locke, I don't know where you're at, but coffee is my favorite food item overall. It's hard to compare drinks and food, because they're so different. But when it comes to liquids, coffee is my all-time over beer or whatever, anything else. Hawaiian punch, orange juice, none of that.
Ooh,
All we want is coffee in this house. And what's funny is that my mom, growing up, hardcore coffee drinker every day. She was the type, she's like the very classic, like, don't talk to me till I have coffee type, can't survive. And I remember it was either in like 9th or 10th grade. And I would go to school super early and I was always so tired. Didn't matter whether I got the right amount of sleep or not. And growing up, I thought that I didn't like coffee, as most kids do, just think that it's some kind of bitter, gross drink. And for some reason, I don't know, I was feeling ambitious one day and decided to try it. Of course, at that point, lots of cream, sugar, all that stuff. And I was like, oh, this is all right. And then I started drinking in the morning, and I really, no exaggeration, it completely changed my life. Where like, I was the type that in my classes before lunch, you'd get like a worksheet or have a test or something. I'd finish it and then put my head down and like basically fall asleep in the mornings and like try to take like morning naps at school because I was so tired. And then I started drinking coffee. I'm like, wow, I have this amazing amount of energy in the morning now that I didn't have before. And it's kind of been that way ever since. And what's been so fun for me about coffee is that I started, like I said, with like cream, sugar, and like, basic bitch stuff. No offense to the basic, everyone loves a normal dude. Diner coffee. I love it. It's horrible, but there's something about it. It's the character of it. I've learned to appreciate all coffees, but I was just drinking basic stuff. And eventually I was learning, someone told me about a device called the AeroPress. Have you guys ever seen one of these?
Yes.
Let me send you a picture, Locke, so you can see what I'm talking about here. So the AeroPress is a device where it's like a different type of coffee maker where you like push it through this tube thing. Ooh. I was like, this is kind of cool. And someone had told me about how it makes really good coffee. So I started using that and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go for it. I'm going to start drinking coffee black. And it was like an acquired taste. Cause at first I was like, I don't know, this might be too much.
Wow.
So I started drinking black coffee probably in college at that point. And that was really kind of, this device started my coffee obsession in my life, where it's like, okay, well, making coffee with this makes it taste better. So what other options are there for what coffee you put into it? And I was interning at a production house in Pittsburgh called Animal. And some of the guys there were into like some real gourmet shit, as Samuel L. Jackson would say. Some real gourmet shit.
Shout out Jules.
From, I think they would buy Intelligentsia coffee, which is pretty, like probably one of the biggest of the high-end brands.
Yeah, I don't know it. I got to look this up.
And they were making it with what's called pour over. With a Chemex. So this is like, it's kind of like, it almost looks like a flower vase or something.
Okay.
You put a filter in and then use a gooseneck kettle and you pour it over, thus being called pour over.
Love it.
So you really like have a supreme amount of control over the coffee as opposed to like a manual coffee maker or something like that. And trying that coffee in particular was crazy because that's the thing that when I talk to people about coffee, I don't know, frustrating is the right word, but a lot of people are thinking about something like Folgers or getting Dunkin' Donuts or, of course, Starbucks. And most of that is like a very medium to dark roast. And that's where you get like the bitterness from coffee is from the roast level. And so what was different about Intelligentsia and other brands like this is that it's light roast coffee. And this is where an actual frustration comes in, is that when I started drinking light roast coffee, I made some for my dad and he's like, oh, I like real coffee. I like it strong. I'm like, no. This is strong coffee. It is brewed with a lot of beans. It's not weak. It's just the flavor is different.
Yeah. Because
you're getting a lot more of the flavor of the bean instead of the flavor of the roast. Right. So that's one of the big things that it's like, wow, this idea of like different roast levels of beans. And then it snowballs from there, where Holly, for quite a few years, when we first got married, worked at a coffee shop and bakery here in Butler. And that's when I was able to learn like a lot about coffee, because she was able to bring home all these bags that were like really nice, kind of expensive bags. She had a thing worked out with her boss that if she posted on the company's Instagram, she got a bag of coffee every week.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which was awesome.
That's super cool.
But these are like $17 to $20 bags for 12 ounces. So,
oh, shit.
Yeah. So that's the problem, is that then I got used to drinking stuff like this.
Get spoiled.
Yeah. So I was very spoiled at that point.
Yeah.
But that's when we started to learn, it's like, okay, this is where it gets real nerdy, is like coffees from Mexico have like a very chocolatey taste to them. My personal favorite, coffees from Kenya, have like this really interesting medium citrusy kind of taste. Whereas like, dude, Ethiopian coffees are like very acidic. It almost, I think to some people, especially if you're coming from like something like Starbucks, could be unrecognizable as coffee in some ways.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Sure.
at this point now, it's like my setup isn't crazy, but I have like a Hario pour over, a really nice grinder, a like precision temperature controlled gooseneck kettle, stuff like that.
Wow.
And normally right now I've kind of cut down on my coffee in that I drink twice a day, sometimes 3, but normally twice a day. But it is funny, dude. And this is where I'm curious to talk to you, Dag, is that there's some people that, and everyone has their different ways of life and drinking coffee or whatever. For my dad enjoys drinking coffee, but for him, it is like the caffeine delivery system where he'll make an entire pot in the morning and he just drinks it all day long.
Oof.
She didn't used to be like this growing up. Growing up, my mom was the coffee drinker and she still is.
Yeah.
But yeah, my dad will just make a pot. He can drink an entire pot and a half like throughout the day.
Wow.
He's
That's
fine.
some cowboy shit.
I'm like, how are you not dehydrated as fuck? He drinks a lot of water too, so I guess he balances it out. But for a lot of people, coffee is just like a caffeine, and that's all it needs to be, and that's fine too. And like I said, I talked about a lot of the high end coffees that I like. I've gotten to the point now where I try to do on off with good coffee, where I'll buy a few bags, drink those, then I'll switch to like sometimes we get like the Dunkin' Donuts at home coffee that you grind. Or
how are those? Are those any good?
I would
mean,
say
you guys
the
are
Dunkin'
coffee
Donuts
fans.
at home is one of the better of the like store brand coffees.
Okay.
Oh.
That, and also Tim Hortons, not bad. Tim Hortons coffee
Tim Hortons
at
is
home,
good.
pretty good. Don't mind it. So yeah, and that's kind of one of the things too. Is like if you're just drinking, it's like if you were to eat filet mignon every day. Eventually, it's not going to be as good or special to you. It's like, okay, I gotta balance out. And like I said earlier, sometimes I enjoy drinking real, like actual shitty coffee because of the context.
That's interesting.
Because of the context, dude. When you're at a diner with the boys, getting some breakfast, the diner coffee, I like it. I don't know what it is.
I like your attitude about it.
Sometimes, sometimes the right aspect, which also, pro tip, is if you have really bitter coffee, you can put a tiny bit of salt in it. Just a tiny bit of salt.
Is that right?
You can. It is true.
And it works.
It does work. It's not going to make it good.
Right.
But it's going to cut it a little bit. So
that's gangster. I like it.
Cool, yeah.
The last thing I'll say before I hand it off to you guys is that I've gotten into, there's this one coffee YouTuber that I really like. His name's James Hoffman.
Oh, I got it.
And he's like, I think he owns a roaster in England. And
this is the British guy.
The British guy.
I know who he is. Okay.
Yeah. And dude, this is, if you are nerdy into coffee, this guy is amazing. He does he'll do like serious stuff, like talking about different espresso machines, stuff like that, serious stuff. But then he'll be like, let's try to deep fry coffee beans to roast it and see what
Oh,
happens.
Shit.
Like cool. Random stuff like that. So he's a great YouTuber. Highly recommend it. But let's see. I mean, I mentioned you earlier, Dag, about I know that you've had an interesting. I remember something about you having to cut yourself off.
Oh yeah.
So
I had to lower my intake for sure, 100%.
Yeah. Tell me about your life with coffee.
Well, I'm glad we're finally getting a chance to discuss this full on, because Dustin and I have touched on this in our conversations over the years, but we never really had a full-fledged opportunity to talk coffee hardcore. And yeah, it's important. And I'm with your dad. Like, it's definitely a caffeine delivery system. That's definitely part of it. You learn that when you don't have caffeine for, a day, and you get massive headaches, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm addicted to caffeine, But really, it's more for me. I'll tell you what it is. I'm steadily upping my coffee game, probably consistently over the last few years. Like, I'm definitely taking it to better and better levels. There's a progression for sure. And it gets to the point where I'm like, I think back to like my college days, which interestingly, like my daughter, who's about to graduate high school in a few months, I didn't drink coffee at all in high school. Oh, I remember that was a big thing as a junior and senior in high school. Kids were already bringing their Dunkin' and they had their coffee in school. But I didn't start until I was in art school, in animation school. And I went late. So as a 20-year-old is really when I started to dip into coffee. And I'm at a level now with my coffee that's both good and bad, because I think back to my college days, right? Like my tepid Robo coffee, nursing a giant Wawa, like bottom of the pot piece of shit cup of coffee all day long. And I cringe because I can't even drink convenience store coffee anymore. Like I'm not even like, I don't even go into a diner with the right attitude like Dustin, which I admire. It's just like, this is what it's going to be. So we got to go in for that and lower our expectations and stuff. I can't anymore. Like I'm at a very specific level right now. Now there is a caveat, Dust, which you bring up, that no matter how official I consider myself, I still don't like black coffee.
Whoa.
I'm trying now. So there's a little bit, even though I'm taking it to a higher level, there's a little bit of imposter syndrome for me still. Like I feel like I'm not officially official yet, but let me tell you where I'm at.
Okay.
I brought a prop. But it's serious when I brought a prop. Guys, this is where my coffee's at right now. Now, I grind my beans. I just have a Cuisinart coffee bean grinder. I grind my whole beans. My whole beans have to be, I know I've mentioned them before, but there's a coffee place in Feasterville, Bucks County, Pennsylvania, about 10 miles from me, called Covered Bridge Coffee. Amazing. Great coffee roasters. They get their Ethiopian beans, Colombian beans. They have all kinds of custom blends. I found them through a local restaurant. That's a great restaurant.
What's it called again, Dag? I'm going to look it up.
It's called Covered Bridge.
Covered.
And they're in Feasterville, Pennsylvania. Now, Feasterville, Pennsylvania, for those who don't know, that's where Donald Trump served us French fries in McDonald's. Same town.
Oh.
Same town. Now, so that's Feasterville's claim to fame, is Trump serving French fries in the McDonald's drive-thru, but also Covered Bridge coffee. It's got to be whole bean. I have my little Cuisinart, no frills, coffee bean grinder. I try to drink my beans daily, but sometimes they've been ground over the course of 2 or 3 days. But they're never less fresh than that. But this, guys, this is where I'm at right now. Jerry Seinfeld taught me this. Okay, this is the Bialetti, Italian, made in
Very
Italy.
Italian, yeah.
Espresso maker. Okay, this is the 6-cup version. Very simple. Water goes down here in the reservoir. If you put warm water, that's the trick, right? It's got a little blow-off valve for the steam. You just unscrew this. You put water on the bottom. You put your coffee in. It's dirty, so I won't open it. I didn't clean it. And of course, that's on brand. And it's just basically a stream-driven espresso maker. Makes 6 cups, so I can have about 1.5 cups of coffee. Nice coffee. I have a medium bean, but it's very, like Dustin's saying, it's concentrated. It's strong, but it's not a dark roast. It's just an intense roast of a medium bean. Okay, and that's it. And this now. No product placement, no brand endorsement yet through Bialetti, but this is just an aluminum coffee maker. I understand. I see on Target, they have the Bialetti. They have like designer colors. You want a nice pink one. This is just a regular stainless finish. I think it's aluminum. The bottom feels very heavy. I don't know if there's a die cast in there or something. Very simple, $45 little contraption. I can't even drink coffee not made. So it's very specific now. It's got to be Covered Bridge coffee. It's got to be whole bean. There's a couple of different blends I like. Sometimes, as tricky as I get, is I'll mix the blends up, but then I'll have this. But here's the thing. The more that I feel like, I don't know if this speaks to you guys, but the higher I get with coffee and kind of the more rules I make for myself, the worse it gets in a way, because now I have all kinds of seemingly arbitrary rules. Like I have to drink this coffee, my 1.5 cups, maybe I could squeeze 2 cups out of it. Have to drink it in the AM. Like up to 11:59 has to be in the AM hours. Afternoon, I don't want any more coffee. Okay. Now after dinner is a nice opportunity for another cup of coffee. All right. Now I gotta watch my blood sugar, and I like my coffee with sugar in it. So sometimes in a perfect world, Dagster should only have 2 cups of coffee. If I go for that after dinner cup a few times a week, that's the 3 cups. That's my cutoff. But the thing is, I can't enjoy coffee out anymore. I can't. Dunkin' Donuts is out. I never liked Starbucks. And then there's the other echelons further down, like the convenience stores. You got your Buc-ee's and your Wawa, and then you got the gas station coffee at the bottom, right? Like all those options are out. It's got to be very customized. Like I can't even drink coffee at my mom's house unless she has the right stuff, you know? So it's become this ritual. It's very important. It's what I look forward to. You know, I wake up, everybody's gone, so I take care of the dog. I walk her, I feed her. But the whole time, I'm just thinking from the time I step foot on the ground out of bed, just thinking about my coffee. It's everything. You know what I mean? It gets to the point where, you know, when you're not feeling good, you feel fluey or you're coming down with something, you don't want coffee, maybe you're dehydrated.
Yeah.
I can't even operate on days like that. Like I am lost. I'm totally lost without my coffee. So very important to me, but I feel like I still got to reach the summit. But I feel like you're really not a real coffee drinker unless you could just enjoy it black. No sugar. I take a little half and half. Now I'm getting better. I used to half and half it up. No whole milk, no part skim. It's got to be half and half. And I used to take it what I would label it medium lightness. Like not dark, not light, somewhere right in between. But I noticed with the quality of the coffee and the quality of the press with the Bialette and everything like that, like I'm liking it darker and darker. So I'm slowly building to that, a little less sugar, incrementally, a little less half and half. So I'll be able to drink it official soon, I hope.
Yeah. I'm looking at this coffee roaster. They have a City Light, like a lighter roast.
I know the one. Yeah.
Might be worth checking that out, Dave.
It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And wait for discount codes. They always, if you just sign up, they'll ship anywhere. Costs a little bit of money. And then, but it's worth it. They're a little bit pricey, but worth it. Probably around the normal price for like a gourmet or specialty coffee, right? Like a smaller shop. But they always have 20, if you just wait, 20 or 25% off your order. And there's no minimums. So if you want to buy one bag and try it, you know, I always write something. I've had this strategy. It's kind of, you know, it's kind of gross, but I do. There's a little comment section. I just like, you know, I gush about the coffee and they always give me a little free bag.
Oh,
with a little thank you sticker.
That's nice.
That's my strategy, you know, but
nice.
I mean it, you know, heartfelt. You know, I told them recently, like, you guys spoiled me. I can't even drink any other coffee anymore. You know, I love it. And they just gave me a little bag, little specialty bag with a little thank you sticker. So, yeah. That's right. And you know why I know that works? Because Helene ordered me coffee once, didn't do that, and didn't get a special thank you.
Oh.
And I said, that's, you know, you gotta put a little effort forth for that. You know?
Dagan, I once had one of those, I can't remember what they're called, the coffee maker you have.
Yeah, the Bialette.
Yeah. I had one of those because Holly found one at a thrift store, but the gasket or whatever was bad because I think it was from like the 80s or something. It was old. So we ended up not using it. And I don't know if I've ever had coffee from one of those before.
Oh, it's
and
beautiful.
You put that right on the stovetop, right?
Put it right on the stovetop.
Yeah.
You could bring it camping, put it on a sterno, whatever. But yeah, it's great if you have a gas stove, if you have an electric range, it doesn't matter. You just put it right on there. You put it, I found out recently, if you pour it, you know, warm water, even boiling type water that you heated up for tea or something, it just speeds up the process and maybe makes the coffee a little less acidic.
Yeah.
Rather than putting cold water and having to wait that time. But dude, it's so good. And again, it's just so simple. This part just comes off. I won't even screw it off right now. Heat resistant handle because this thing gets hot. And it's just one of those things where it's like, wow, this little $45, maybe you can get it on sale for $40. It's just like, it's added so much quality of life. The whole thing's made in Italy. Every single part in this thing, like the little grommet you were talking about, the little strainer part, everything says made in Italy. There's no made in China stuff going on here. It's just a little beautiful old school piece of analog equipment, I feel like. You know, you just squeeze a lot out of that. You'll have it for a long time.
I'm glad you mentioned the ritual of it. There's actually a coffee roaster I really like called Ritual, based, you know, on
that's
that
a great
concept
name
of it.
That's a great name.
That, you know, this idea of the process, enjoying the process of making coffee, maybe not as much as drinking it, but I love, dude, and I haven't gotten into making espresso mainly because making good espresso at home is more than likely expensive. Like to get like a proper espresso machine with the right pressure and stuff like that. There are alternatives, but I kind of blocked myself off of that where I'm like, nah, that's going to be a rabbit hole for me.
Yeah. You got to stave yourself off. Now, Dustin, when you say you drink black coffee, that means no sugar, nothing in it.
Nothing.
Just the coffee.
Just the coffee.
That's hardcore to me.
Yeah.
I really want to get there, though.
To be fair, when I am at a coffee shop, I will usually go for either a latte,
okay,
which is espresso, steamed milk, and that's pretty much it. A lot of people get like vanilla and flavors and stuff.
Sure.
I don't do that. Or a cortado, which is like a latte but more concentrated and smaller. So it's like more, the ratio of coffee to steamed milk is different.
Okay.
And I always, when I get that at a shop, it's because I can't make that at home. At least not as well. And you know, so sometimes I do go for something like that. Sometimes every once in a while I will get like the Starbucks coffee, or not Starbucks style, I'll say like a Frappuccino style. It's like a dessert thing, not for my morning coffee, but I like coffee related drinks as well. I'm not like one of those purist guys. I do take a little umbrage when there's the people, and Holly can speak to this as she worked at the shop, that would come in for their morning coffee and it would be basically like a large milkshake that's coffee flavored.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't call it that. Like if you want to drink that every morning, more power to you. It's not really you're not really a coffee person. No. You got to have definitions on certain things.
Yeah, it's nice that option exists for you, but it's something else at that point. It's Baskin Robbins or something at that point, right? Yeah.
Locke, let's bring you in here. You're European, obviously.
True. Yeah.
And I don't really know what that means in general for your life, but for coffee, what do the Belgians drink? Do you drink?
Well, there are two things I love in life, and that's caffeine and nicotine. Well, three things. I'm my cat here. So three things. But I love coffee because when I was a kid, my parents used to smoke and drink coffee. That's basically all they did.
Based.
So as a kid, I woke up to the smell of cigarettes and coffee, which probably turned me into the person I am today. But when I was a kid, my parents told me, for some reason, I assume they took me to a doctor at some point. But when I was a kid, my parents told me I was lactose intolerant. And my parents always drank milk with their coffee, like cream with their coffee. So I never really touched coffee until I went to college, until I moved out. And then when I went to college, I went to film school. And when you're in film school, you have to work on a lot of TV sets while you're in school. And on TV sets, coffee is all people drink. It's all they do all day long, drink coffee. And when you start out on a movie set or on a TV set, you start out as a runner. And a runner basically makes coffee. That's your main function throughout the day is making coffee. So I remember when I got to my first set as a 19-year-old, I had no idea how to make coffee. So I just pressed a button on the machine and hoped that was it. And then 5 minutes later, I came back and the whole floor was covered in coffee and everyone was super upset with me. So my first memory of coffee as an adult wasn't a great one. But then later on, I developed a taste for it. But you guys are going to hate me because I'm not a coffee snob, as you want to call it, as people call it. No, I don't think you guys are snobs. Just to,
no, you can call it what it is. I mean,
what it is.
But the way you were talking about roasts and whatever, I have no idea. I go to the store, I see coffee, I buy pads, I put it in the machine, I press a button, and I have coffee. That's very simple. But what I love most about coffee is these disgusting little cups that I bought here too. It's like a Starbucks cup, but the off-brand one, which is disgusting, but I love it. But I did discover, because when I was a kid, my parents told me I was lactose intolerant. I never believed them because I could eat cheese, no problem. But lately, every time I drink one of these little cups, I feel a little bit sick. but like in a good way. Like I feel, well, it's not like I get a headache or anything, but I feel like I shouldn't have dinner after I drink one of these cups because I feel like a little bit bloated and a little bit sickly. So last year I did go to a doctor and I asked him, like, am I lactose intolerant? And he said, well, yeah, probably. If you feel sick after drinking one of those cups, he said, you should probably stop doing that. It's not healthy for your stomach or for your intestines. But I didn't listen to him because I drink one of these every day after dinner. Well, every day at 7 p.m., like I did when we started here. And I love it. It's like a little ritual for me. But that's also, the doctor also told me that that's one of the reasons why I sound so nasally, because I always drink milk products, which I shouldn't be drinking, because black coffee is not something I really enjoy. I drink it when I'm working somewhere and there's only black coffee, or when I'm on a set or something and there's only black coffee. I'll drink it and I won't complain, but it's not something I go out of my way to get somewhere. Now, if I go to dinner with someone, or if I go to a bar, or if I go anywhere and I drink some beers and I get a little bit drunk, the one thing that always sobers me up, I never leave a place without drinking at least 2 black coffees. Because that's the thing that always kind of sobers me up.
Oh, wow.
But I don't have that. People here about, I know plenty of my friends who are the same like you, Dustin, or like you, Dagan, or like your parents, who say like, oh, I can't start my day without coffee. I think I have the opposite, because I drink coffee at night, and maybe that's why I sleep like hell. Like I only sleep like 2 hours every night, or maybe 3 hours every night, because all I drink is water, these little cups of disgusting coffee that make me sick, and Coke Zero. That's all I drink. So I have a lot of, well, and water, of course.
And water.
Some people don't. Some people just don't drink water.
No.
So
yeah, no,
a lot of people don't.
They don't live very long, which is maybe a good thing. So when I go to sleep, I'm caffeined up, I'm nicotine up, and then I don't sleep very well. But then I usually wake up in like the middle of the night, and then I do some work or do some other stuff, play something or something. And I'm usually at like 6 a.m. I get really tired, because that's the point where I haven't had caffeine for like 8 hours. And that's when I sleep really well, from like 6 until 9 or 6 until 10 a.m. But then the whole coffee thing starts again. So it was really interesting to hear you talk about coffee and how that got you through school, Dustin, because I never had that problem. I kind of have the opposite problem. I'm always when I was a kid, I was always very energetic during school. So maybe it's a good thing I didn't drink coffee back then.
Yeah.
But as far as appliances go, do you guys know what a Senseo machine is? Do you guys have that there too? That's the main thing that people here use, or at least used up until a decade ago. I never bought a new one, so I presume people still buy that.
Yeah,
but it's a very simple machine. You just put in a pad, you press on a button, and there's your coffee. There's no gimmick. There's no roast. There's no cool stuff. There's no cool industry mechanic you have to do. No, it's just a coffee. The coffee comes out of a machine. There it is. Drink it. So that's the stuff I drink every day, and I love it, and I can't go without it. But I think that's just because I'm addicted to caffeine at this point. It's the same with Coke Zero. Like if there's a day where I don't drink Coke Zero, I go nuts.
Does Coke Zero have caffeine in it?
I think so.
It just has no sugar.
It has no sugar. Yeah.
Okay. It's just no sugar, but it's still caffeinated.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's all I drink: water, Coke Zero, and coffee. So I guess I'm fully caffeinated all the time. And then the times of day where I'm not caffeinated, I can't really work without. No, it's quite the opposite. I can't work when I'm caffeinated. I'm always so amped up, and I want to do something else, or I want to do something else than work.
That's interesting, dude.
So I should probably quit it at some point, I guess.
It's like too much energy.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, but then maybe the nicotine brings it back down, so it evens each other out. So my chemical balance is probably not very healthy. But that's how I operate. So I really like coffee. But it's not like you guys. It's not like a way of life for me. I think if I didn't have coffee for a day, but I had Coke Zero, I wouldn't notice it. But I do love my little cups here that make me sick.
Caffeine and nicotine, man. Has there ever been a more perfect marriage? Honestly, it makes me miss. I mean, beer is the other one with cigarettes, right? But coffee and cigarettes, man, there's just something special.
Yeah.
It makes me. It's those things, those pairings that make me miss smoking. Dustin, did you ever smoke?
I have only ever been a recreational smoker.
Okay.
Like, for example, when we were out at Too Many Games in Philly, boys trip, there's some smoking going on.
Yeah.
on the boys'
that.
trip.
I get
But last time I had a cigarette, it's probably at a bar around Christmas time. So
Okay.
it's
That's
been
not
a
that
while,
long ago.
but I do enjoy cigarettes here and there.
But
Just do it full time. It's really healthy for you.
Dude, I tell Holly this all the time. I'm like, it is a curse on mankind that smoking is bad for you, because I would love to smoke every day, but
it's so bad for you.
It's the best.
Dude, when I was in Japan, so Japan doesn't have laws against flavored cigarettes. I'm the opposite with cigarettes as I am with coffee, because I don't really like any kind of flavored, especially oiled coffee that has flavored oil on it. I can't stand.
No.
In Japan, I was able to get these mint berry Lucky Strikes that they have. It's like a Camel Crush, but it's berry and menthol. And so I bought 2 of those packs and brought them home, and they are absolutely excellent.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Never knew that existed.
Well, yeah. I mean, thanks to Obama. I just point that out because he's the one who banned the flavored cigarette thing. So it's Obama.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, you cannot. There are no flavored cigarettes in the U.S., so you can't.
Really?
No flavors here.
I'll send you some. We have a shit ton of flavors,
dude.
Yeah,
I don't.
do you?
I don't smoke them. I just smoke normal cigarettes because I'm an adult. But if you want cute candy cigarettes, I can.
What kind of flavors you got over there?
Everything. We got we literally have chocolate. We have everything. Anything you want. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. But nobody really smokes them. I made a joke, kids, but I think they are really meant for kids. Like, well, not kids, but like if you have to be 16, I think, to smoke here.
Wow.
But I've never seen like adults smoke them. But I had an ex-girlfriend who smoked like menthol cigarettes. Those are really big here.
Oh, those are huge here too.
Yeah.
But you have those, so you can smoke those. Oh, okay.
Menthol's the only variation really.
Yeah, you're right.
Allowed. What's interesting, I like flavored cigarettes, but I'm totally out on flavored cigars.
Dude. Yeah.
Flavored cigars. I've had a few that I've liked, but for the most part, I don't like those. It's like too much.
Too bold.
Yeah.
What is the state? Locke, what is the state of smoking? I'll say in Belgium, but in Europe at large, like cigarettes, but also here now with the kids, if they're still smoking, it seems like vaping. Like I see somebody with a cigarette, especially a young person, it's almost like a welcome blast from the past. You know, what about in Europe? Are people still largely smoking?
Well, it's funny because that was in a huge decline over the past decade and a half, or 2 decades, I want to say. But now, ever since last year, it's on the up again. People have started smoking again.
I feel like that here too.
It's ridiculously expensive though. Because like a pack, I smoke maybe one of these packs every 2 days, and this costs $30. And when I started smoking, and when I started smoking, this was like $10, $5
for 20 cigarettes.
No,
euros.
30.
30,
euros,
okay.
Euros. It has 30 of them. But that's ridiculously expensive, and they just amp it up every year. Now, I think that's a good thing, even though I'm a heavy smoker, because that is the thing that's ultimately going to make me quit, because I just simply can't afford it anymore.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good thing. I think if they ramp up the prices even more, I'll smoke less, because if they were cheaper, I would definitely smoke more. So I think that's a good thing they're doing. But the reason they're not banning it here, I assume it's the same over there, is because the government makes a shit ton of money on it. We've got these taxes on cigarettes.
I'm sure.
So they make a whole lot of money on it, but it gets really expensive. It's such a bad habit too. Now that I'm older, I'm really starting to notice it too. Like my lungs are not great. But I also start usually before this year, I want to say, when I woke up in the morning, I didn't have this smoker's cough. But now I have a smoker's cough, or my voice is starting to crack more. So it's a really nasty, bad habit. I think out of all my friends, I'm the only one who still smokes. All of them quit over the years, and they keep telling me to quit. And I want to quit, but it's just like, it's not something I'll ever do.
It's terrible. It's terrible for your health. It's just so the thing is, it's so enjoyable. The cost is a deterrent. You could see that as a positive or a negative. I know I'm old, but I'll give you guys some context for the price of cigarettes now. When I was in college in the mid 90s to the late 90s, you could get a pack of cigarettes at a Wawa for $1.99.
Wow.
$2, $2.50, maybe $3 if they were gouging, or at the newsstand. You know what I mean? They might charge $3.50 because it's late at night and Wawa's whatever the other options are closed for the night, right? You might pay $4 outside the bar for a pack of cigarettes. That was a lot, It's like insane, the price of it now. It's so crazy, Wow, that's insane. But the pairings, I mean, it's just the coffee and cigarettes. They're just made for each other, those two things.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's something inherently. I thought it was something inherently to TV, but then when I started working for regular companies, it's everywhere. Like everywhere, coffee is just everywhere.
Yeah,
everyone drinks it, everyone does it. So it's a universal thing. But I think it's really fun to hear you guys be so passionate about it, because I don't think I know anyone who's really passionate about coffee. I assume there's a lot of people. I remember that guy in Breaking Bad. The other chemist guy was really into coffee.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. What was his name? What was that character's
Gil.
name?
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, right.
Gil was really into coffee. That's kind of what you guys remind me of now, but in a positive way. I think that's really cool to have like something you're really passionate about that you can also consume. Have you ever been to like a coffee factory or taken like a tour somewhere?
No.
The most I ever did was there was a coffee roaster in Pittsburgh that would do like open barista sessions. That I went with Holly, and they had people that worked at their shops that would let people pull shots, learn how that works. It wasn't about any of the roasting, though, which this reminds me, this is a dream of mine. But I don't, it's not a good idea, so I'm not going to do it. My dream is that someday Last Stand can partner with a coffee roaster and do a limited run Last Stand roast.
That would be cool.
Man. I don't know if our audience would care about it other than me and a select few. But it would just mainly be a thing where it's like, I would love to work with a roaster, develop like, okay, we want to use this roast, these beans, this is it. And then it's like comes in a blue bag with a moon on it or something. And that would be about it. It's mainly a novelty, but I think it would be awesome. So
that's a great idea. Yeah,
I don't know any roasters that would do it. So maybe if there's someone in the audience that you work at a coffee roaster, hit me up. Maybe we'll make it a reality and we can sell all 20 bags or something like that.
Are the other people in LSM also into coffee like you guys, or are you two the only ones? And Brad too, I see.
Brad is
Brad. Right? I think Brad's not like me, but he likes it. Ben is into really good coffee because when we're on trips together, he's always down, dude. On trips, I'm mapping out the coffee spots to go to.
You seek it out, yeah.
Whether we're in Boston or Philly or when we were in New York, I'm like, we gotta hit these roasters, try this, and he's always down. But I don't think his love goes as far as me, where he's like, I gotta make the amazing coffee at home every day.
Okay.
But other than that, I know Micah is into coffee.
Yeah. Micah, yeah.
Okay. She's a big fan of the Nespresso, which I've never had Nespresso before.
I never did either.
I don't think I would like it because it's mostly medium to dark roasts. So probably wouldn't be my thing. But everyone likes their different types.
Very specific. Have you guys heard there's like this mythological coffee? Maybe it's not. Maybe it just is to me. There's this style of coffee, I guess, from Jamaica called Jamaican Blue Mountain, which is supposed to be like the best coffee, which I guess only grows in a very specific region of that country. Very expensive. Even like if you go to Starbucks and they have a Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee, it just has a little bit added to like whatever their Ethiopian blend because it's so pricey to buy on its own. I don't even know how I heard of it. But once I heard it, then I heard more and more people talking about it. This coffee was like it was like truffle mushrooms, right? It was like, it's this much money per gram or something. It's so rare. Or like Wagyu beef, right? It's like the Wagyu beef of coffee, but I never had it. I always ask for it every Christmas and no one ever gets it.
Oh.
I'm looking at a site now that sells it, and it definitely is pricey. Like, well, this is a 16-ounce bag for $51.
Okay, so it's like triple the price. That's not terrible.
Dagan, I thought you were going to mention the monkey coffee. Have you heard of this monkey coffee before?
No. Tell me.
There's a great I think it's James Hoffman video about it. There is, I can't remember what it's actually called, but I know what it is. So there's coffee that people sell. I don't remember from what country, that there's these monkeys that go and they're very selective about what coffee beans they eat. They only eat the best. So they eat the coffee beans, they poop it out. People then collect the coffee beans from the poop.
Come on.
Wash them, roast them, drink.
This is insane. I never heard
how COVID
this
started.
What?
Might have been how COVID started. Yeah, this is a real thing. But what's interesting about this,
nailed it.
There are companies that caught on to this. And so some of them have these monkeys in captivity and they feed them coffee beans. And these aren't authentic because the monkeys become less choosy. So if you're just feeding them the beans, they don't have the selection process of the best beans.
What?
And there's also something about like the enzymes in their digestion or something can do something to the coffee. I've never had this. I would try it, but to my understanding from real coffee enthusiasts, it's a gimmick. Like it doesn't really makes an interesting coffee, but it's not anything that should be sought after as premium.
Okay.
Well,
I would totally try it.
Yeah, I'll get you some monkey shit for your birthday.
Perfect.
Don't worry.
It's expensive.
Consider it done.
Okay. Thank you.
Dude, I would try it, but this sort of thing begs the question, how did this start? How the hell does something like this start?
Yeah.
What was the brainchild of? It's funny talking about truffles, right? It's like the monkey coffee version of truffle pigs, or like the controversy of like a foie gras, right? Which is like stuffed goose liver, like feeding geese until their livers expand to like exploding. I don't even know if it's that controversial because I'm assuming it's harmful for the monkey. Maybe not. I don't know. I mean, monkeys coexist where coffee grows.
Yeah.
So I don't. It's interesting. I have to look further into this. I would definitely try it.
I got to correct myself a little bit. It's not. It's not a monkey. It is a Asian palm civet.
Oh, it's kind of like what monkey-ish.
Yeah, it's like
monkey
a cat
adjacent
thing that hangs out in trees.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'll send you guys the Wikipedia of this animal.
I gotta do this.
Yeah, because on the actual Wikipedia page about the coffee itself, you can see the monkey poop on here, which basically just looks like a turd made of coffee beans. So someone saw that and was like, well, I mean, why not?
This creature is friggin' adorable.
I know, it's so cute.
What the hell? He's really cute. He looks like, for those, look up civet, but it looks like a mongoose, maybe like a ferret. I don't know, but cuter. Interesting.
Oh,
yeah. I feel bad for the ones that are factory slaves, made to eat and shit coffee all day long.
Jesus Christ.
Dude, it's on the coffee Wikipedia pages about the there's like an animal welfare section that shows one in a cage. It's really sad.
You have educated me. I did not know about this. This is so interesting.
You've never had it, right?
No.
You want to try it, yeah.
I mean, the problem is with the understanding from like someone like James Hoffman, who I've watched enough of his videos that I think that he is truly an expert. He's won like the barista world championships and stuff like that. Sure. With his context of like, it's not worth it. I would not want to pay the price to try a novelty coffee like that. But if someone offered it to me, or if I was able to get it for something that wasn't ridiculously expensive, it's like, sure, I would absolutely try it. But I'm not going to spend $100 on a cup of coffee that is not really that special.
Yeah.
So.
And maybe it's not the most hygienic. I mean, I don't think it's like blowfish where if you eat the wrong part, you're going to die. But that would be one way of making it a little more exciting.
Sure. Absolutely.
Maybe it's clean. Maybe it's not.
I'll end this topic with one small detail to tell you guys. Just something fun. This last trip I went on to Japan, I made a bigger emphasis to trying out different coffee shops in Japan. That was something I kind of missed out on. Just because when I was planning my first trip, it was just figuring out, even just getting around and doing things. And we had some good coffee, but I didn't take a big emphasis on it. This coffee shop that I went to, I ended up going multiple days, was in Shinjuku. It's a place called Coffee Swamp. And what was cool about it, let me see if I can find a little picture of it.
I love it.
You guys.
It's so Japan, first of all. Thank you, Japan, for calling it.
Let's see, coffee shop or Shinjuku. So this place is basically this coffee shop is smaller than this room. It's maybe a third smaller than the room I'm in.
Okay.
And it is in like an alleyway in this residential part of Shinjuku. There's like neighbors, and there's signs that's like, please don't be loud outside because there's neighbors here that live here.
I love it.
And there's one guy that works there. He roasts all the coffee. He makes the coffee when you're there. He rings you out, and he plays like Japanese jazz or or just like jazz music in general on vinyl in the shop. And I legit, it was the best coffee I've ever had in my entire life from this one guy in Japan. Let me see. Oh, yeah, here's there's two guys in this image.
That's like the soup Nazi from Seinfeld.
Oh, really? Let me see.
Yeah. So here's hold on. I got to copy and paste. Here's the shop. Just this tiny little place.
It must smell amazing in there. It's gotta smell so. I love the records. I love the record. Dude, look at this place.
There's these. There's two guys in this photo, but there's only one guy when I was there. But
dude, that's so sick.
Just a tiny little room. And I was like, man,
I love the vibes.
This is
nowhere
awesome.
to sit. You gotta take it to go.
So in this picture, you can see like two little stools. There's maybe 6 spots total, but yeah, it was great. I would love to. That's one of those things that if I'm back in Tokyo, it's like I'm making the trip just to go.
Just cozy.
Is it like a renowned place? Like, was it busy? Were there a lot of people there, or is it like really niche? Like,
how'd you find it?
I was looking for coffee shops near where we stayed in Shinjuku, and this one popped up and was really, really well reviewed. And the thing that I always look for is like, okay, is this, sometimes you'll find spots, not necessarily for coffee, but they're like tourist spots. Like, I'm like, is this a popular place for Americans or tourists that are coming?
Right.
But when I was there, it was a mix of like, there was a few tourists there, another coffee lover guy that was a tourist from, a American that was there that we talked to, but also lots of Japanese people too coming through. So, that's the thing about Japan in general. It's just like, I love, whether it's food or any kind of craftsman related job, there's people that are like, I'm dedicating my life to making the best coffee or the best pork rice bowl or something. And that's like a very respected thing, is like being a great chef, even if it's for cheaper food or something. It's like, that's great.
I love
no
it.
one looks down upon that.
No.
And people want to do that to the best. Like, they want to make the absolute best they can. Not that people don't exist like that here, but there's a lot of that in Japan where it's like, there's this one shop where this one guy makes this one thing, and it's all he's done his entire life is make this one thing. And it's the best thing you've ever had in your life, and it's $5.
So cool, dude.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There's something to be said for that. Yeah, it's that pride.
Mm-hmm.
It's just raw pride. It's so cool. I know you've been to Japan a couple of times now, Dust. Locke, have you ever been
to Japan?
Yeah.
No, I will never go to Japan. Never. Ever,
will execute him in the street.
No,
it's a whole anti-weeb thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's where we have to destroy it. But no, when I saw Dustin's pictures, they look awesome, and he looks so happy there. It's so cool to see people travel to like a new environment and have them have so much fun like Dustin did. I love seeing that. That's awesome. Asia is not for me, but I have that with Ireland, for instance, or more northern countries. But those pictures Dustin sent were amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool. I was really curious, though, not just in Japan. I know Japan in many ways is very quote unquote westernized, but other Asian countries too. I am curious about the coffee culture in the East in general. Like, is that because you think of the East, and not the stereotype, but ancient, and also their kind of relationship with dating back with tea.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, of course.
Right. Coffee is more of a Western thing that eventually, I guess came by way of places like England back in the day, right?
Yeah.
France and Spain. So it's like Italy and those places. So I wonder how big it is there. So it's interesting to know that it's so sought after, but I guess it makes sense.
Yeah. I found that their coffee culture is about the same as ours in that there's convenience store coffee. There's these little cans called Boss. It's the brand is called Boss Coffee, and it is this like concentrated, disgusting, insanely dark roast, strong cut like drink. I had one, and I mean it was interesting, not for me. So there's like that stuff, but then you have like much like here, like these very boutique small shops where they'll make like the most beautiful latte art, and each one, dude, the guy at Coffee Swamp. This is how hardcore he was. I got a pour over there, and I was noticing that he would make the pour over, and then he would pour a tiny bit into like a little tasting cup, and he would taste every cup that went out himself for quality and consistency. He tasted everything.
What?
I was like, damn,
Dedication.
guy's legit. Maybe
Guy's
he
got
just wanted to drink some coffee throughout the day. That's also possible. But I was like, I've never had that in the US where someone pre-tasted their pour over or whatever, just like before everything, like like a chef would basically.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
like, I'm watching Hell's Kitchen, dude. The series finale is out. Not series, but the season finale. I got to watch that later. But yeah, in Hell's Kitchen, they're always like, you got to taste everything. You got to taste it. So it makes sense.
Yeah.
For coffee.
Yeah,
Have
but
you
they
ever-
don't do that here.
Have you ever had like I don't know what it's called, Arabian coffee, or like the coffee they make in like sand, and then they press like the little thing into the sand, and then
No.
Yeah.
up?
What is that called?
it looks really cool.
I have never had that. You know what? I was with Holly once and she got it. And I think I tasted it. It is very, very strong. And I think that coffee is designed that it's very, very strong, super bitter, and it is intended to be drank with sugar.
Oh, Turkish coffee
Turkish
made with
coffee.
hot
That's it. That's
sand?
it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow, I never knew about this.
Yeah. It looks really cool how they make it. Yeah.
Holy shit.
It's dude, there's so many wild ways of making coffee. There's some that look like that guy in Breaking Bad with like tubes and stuff. There's there was this kit I almost bought once that it looks like almost like an hourglass that you have to get a Bunsen burner.
I've
And
seen this.
Yeah. I was like, that would be fun. I don't think it necessarily makes coffee that is that much better, but it's fun. It's like we were talking about earlier, the ritual.
Yes.
That's not a ritual I would want to do every morning, but it would be, it's fun.
It's heavy.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Yeah. I mean, you're going after the taste. You know what I mean? It's just like how far, to what lengths will you go? For me, that's what it is. It's the taste. You know what I mean? It's like getting after that pure, getting a good cup of coffee. And then once you have a good cup of coffee, then you realize what a bad cup of coffee is. Then your standards are set so high. So it's both good and bad, you know? But I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the journey. It's just like there's always another like level to progress to, it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
So it's never boring. It's never boring. Some people are just, what I realize, like a lot of people, and I'm not anti-Starbucks. I know Starbucks, especially in the United States, every time I see a mom and pop, cafe or a coffee roaster, I'm like, kudos, because Starbucks just has such a huge market share. And, I have 2 people in my house that are addicted to it. When I realized Starbucks was a problem, I saw that James Hoffman guy break down Starbucks in a YouTube video. He did like a 5-minute spiel, and it taught me a lot about the ins and outs of the different drinks and their techniques and the things they do, their corporate strategy. But I realized how addicted people were to Starbucks when we went to Disney World the first time with the kids. This was probably, 7 or 8 years ago. And when you get into Disney World, Magic Kingdom on Main Street, there's a Starbucks right through the front gates, basically. And I would say 90% of the people walking through those front gates before they get to like, the area that opens up where you can see the castle and everything, they were hitting Starbucks first.
Oh, yeah.
In Disney World. Like you couldn't just put that habit aside while you were in the Magic Kingdom, like that you had to make that a part of. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, there was a Starbucks on both sides of Main Street. Right. So you could go and they were packed. You know, it was
yeah.
like my wife would wait 35 minutes before we got in there with the kids to get her Starbucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Insane.
Dude, yeah, Starbucks, it's tough. I appreciate Starbucks for popularizing coffee in the way it has.
Yeah.
At the same time, Starbucks is very like old school. I think I'm trying to remember. This is like a very nerdy James Hoffman thing. Like there's different waves of coffee. And I think it would be second wave coffee. Let's see, Starbucks. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
That's an interesting way to look at it, though. I see what you're saying.
That wave of coffee is like more boutique, but still very dark. So I think that a lot of people's impression of coffee is they think about a black coffee at Starbucks and they're like, oh, it's very bitter. It's like, it doesn't have to be that way. There's all these different ways, but people have this normalized version of what coffee is. But yeah, Dagan, as far as like a Starbucks, there's a Starbucks in Butler. I've only been to it one time. And it's like, again, I don't have anything. There's no problem for people that like Starbucks. It's not type of coffee I like.
Love it.
But when I am traveling, it's like sometimes that's the option that you have. And anytime I go to Cedar Point, usually at around 3 p.m., I will go to the Starbucks at Cedar Point and I will get a cold brew or something like that. And it's good. Like, I think some Starbucks stuff is really good. They have like really nice cold brew or nitro cold brew with like a sweet cream. That's really nice.
Good. Those are really good. Yeah.
I think those are really good. So, but yeah, dude, I can't imagine the Disney thing.
Insane.
I would be obsessed. And maybe, I don't know if you think about this, Dag, is that, and this is not a good thing. If a Disney trip, especially now, would be so expensive that I'd be thinking it's like, how much money did I spend to wait in line? Because every minute that I'm here, is money.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not only the cost of the coffee, but it's the time spent waiting in line.
You raise a good point too, Dust. I'm not sure because you go in, if you go in with the package deals, you get like food points towards meals and anything on the resort. And I'm not sure if you could plug those points into Starbucks or not. I want to say you couldn't, but I could be wrong about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, you're already paying that meal plan, but you're going to go in for the additional cost of the Starbucks for the family. And the kids love it too. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not like there's not like some cost for entry, like they're drinking it as 8-year-olds.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a lot. But yeah, again, I'm not opposed to it. And, there's that thing too of like you're saying, if you travel, it's like that fast food thing. You know what you're getting. A Big Mac is, essentially virtually should be the same everywhere. So if you like a certain drink at Starbucks, you could get that when you're traveling across the country or across the world. So there's definitely benefit there,
Yeah. My the thought of like spend your time spent on vacation versus how much you're spending to be there is not a healthy thing that I don't recommend. I have never rested on a vacation because of it ever. Like, dude, in Japan, it's like, we got things to do. We got places to be. There's no time to rest. We are going. We are doing things. I don't recommend it, but it's also
it's expensive, dude. You're trying to wring every bit of value. I get it.
Of course, yeah.
I get it. 100%.
I feel like honestly, and I know the audience has picked up on this, and they're right. I'm basically like value retarded at this point, where it's like I've gotten a lot better at it, and I don't know if it's growing up with my dad. That actually would be a good topic at some point, like value versus convenience.
Yeah, that's interesting.
There are so many things where it's like I'll sit and think about a $3 purchase at a store for sometimes, like I'll be like, oh, I'll wait and I'll walk around and do other stuff and then decide. It's like, dude, why? It's not, I mean, and it's no offense to people that got to watch every dollar. I get that. But dude, I'll think about stuff like that where it's like, there's certain things like, oh, should I, shouldn't I? And it's like, dude, you've spent $5 on this other thing and you didn't even blink an eye on it. So, and so that bleeds over to vacation sometimes. It's something I'm proud of.
Now I want a cup of coffee. Ugh.
I know, dude. This was my last cup of good beans. So now it's back to
It's back to the
standard
Dunkin'?
stuff.
Oh, okay.
Right. So Holly's mom picked us up some coffee. She was at the store and Holly's like, oh, we need this. It's 8 a.m. coffee. Have you ever heard of that brand?
I have. Yeah.
It's not very good.
No, it's 8 o'clock. Is it 8 o'clock?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. Yeah. That's a store brand. Somebody's store brand, like Giant store brand or something.
Yeah. She got it
terrible.
at Giant Eagle.
Yeah.
So
That's
Giant
it,
Eagle,
yeah.
that's like a local Pittsburgh, but I think there's other Giant brands and stuff.
Yeah.
But,
I do know that brand.
It's acceptable.
It's a step down.
And I'm very appreciative that she picked it up for us. So I don't want it to sound like I'm not appreciating it. But at the same time, I was like, ooh.
Better than nothing.
Yeah. It's
Kinda
better than
nothing.
It's a little better than nothing.
Yeah.
But
I get it. I definitely get it. You satisfied with the coffee talk?
I'm beyond satisfied.
I love it. I just want a coffee and a cigarette now, though. So bad, though. Oof. So bad. Not Cog. Lock.
Damn.
This is where you come in, my
Change
friend.
races. It's the ball thing, I think.
So
You can see the confusion. You have a topic that I know people are going to get their dirty little meat hooks into. Launch it whenever you can, my friend.
Sure. Well, a couple of days ago, I don't know when this airs. I presume next week or the week after. I never really know with Constellation. But a couple of days ago, there was a video game that released called Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I don't know if you've ever heard of this game, Dagan.
I haven't.
Okay. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. You've heard of Skyrim, I presume.
Of course,
You played
yes.
Skyrim. It's basically Skyrim for masochists. So it's a medieval setting, but there's no fantasy. So there's no dragons, there's no magic. You're you start out as a poor blacksmith's son in 14th century or 15th century Bohemia, and you have to work your way up from peasant to knight. Let's say that's the very short explanation. But the fun part about Kingdom Come Deliverance is that you have this whole world to explore. You can get lost, and there's quests everywhere, and it's very hard and it's very difficult. And I was a huge fan of the first game. So when they announced the second game last year, I was ecstatic. Like, I couldn't wait for this game. Like this, I've not been looking forward to a game like this for many, many years. And then when it released last week, I got a little bit scared because you never know when a game releases, will it meet your expectations? It's now been out for, I think, 3 days. And over the past 3 days, I've poured, let me check, I think 20 hours into it or more even.
Oh, wow. A lot already.
Yeah, I don't have a job, so it's a poor idiot. Never mind. So I poured many hours into it, and I am absolutely in love with this game. It's exceeding every expectation I have. I love it so much. I can't get enough of it. I'll probably be playing again all night. I have some stuff to do tomorrow, so I probably have to be careful, but this game is becoming an addiction for me. It's so good. It's so wonderful. It's perfect in it's not perfect in every way, but to me, it's perfect in every way. It's everything I wanted it to be. And I've only had that a couple of times before. I've had that with The Witcher 3 in 2015. I've had that with Red Dead 2 in 2018. I've had that with Baldur's Gate 3, I think 2022 that was, or 2023, last year or the year before. And I've had that way couple of decades ago with Baldur's Gate 2 in 2001. And those are the only times where I got a game, I started playing it, and I was like, wow, this is exceeding every expectation. I love this. I'm going to pour hundreds of hours into this. But that got me thinking, like, there's also been cases where the opposite happened, where there was a game releasing which I was very excited about, and I couldn't wait to play it. But then when I got my hands on it, it was such a disappointment. And 2 games or 3 games really came to mind here. I love Mafia 1 and Mafia 2. Those are 2 of my favorite games. I love those games. So in 2016, when they announced Mafia 3, or when Mafia 3 was supposed to come out in October, I was ecstatic. I remember I took a week off from work because I wanted to pour my heart and soul into this game. I was so excited for Mafia 3. And then when I got my hands on it and played it for a couple of hours, I was so disappointed, because this wasn't the successor to those 2 beautiful games that it was supposed to be. And I've had that same feeling again a couple of years ago. I'm a huge fan of Starfield. I already gave it away. I'm a huge fan of Skyrim and Oblivion, Fallout 3, every Fallout 4 even. I love every Bethesda game. I grew up with them, Daggerfall. But a couple of years ago when we got Starfield, I was convinced that this was going to be it. Like they marketed it as like the perfect game. You're going to be playing this for years. It's going to be perfect. So I figured, wow, first we'll get Baldur's Gate 3 and then a month later we'll get Starfield. This is like the perfect year for me. This is awesome. And then when I got my hands on Starfield, I was so incredibly disappointed. It was like the opposite of what I hoped it would be. A lot of people liked it, so that's just a me problem, I guess. And another time where I had that was with Mass Effect Andromeda, which released in 2017, I think. I love Mass Effect, beautiful series. I used to love BioWare. Great, they had great people working there. They make great games, Mass Effect, Dragon Age. But when Mass Effect Andromeda released, I was so disappointed because the writing wasn't on par. It happened again kind of last year with, last year with Dragon Age the Veilguard. I thought it was okay. It wasn't great, but it was an okay game. My expectations were low for that one, so I wasn't that disappointed as many other people were. But that got me thinking, if you guys have video games that exceeded your expectations, and also if you guys have video games that you were so disappointed by that made you sad that they were not what you thought they were going to be. So for me, those were The Witcher 3, Red Dead 2, and now Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. And I would say Starfield and Mass Effect Andromeda.
Wow. Interesting.
What do you go first, Dagan? Because I don't really know your type of games.
You and I never get to talk games.
No.
We really frequently don't talk games.
Yeah.
This is an interesting one, man. And I'm going to go with my two picks for the one that exceeded my expectations and the game that just didn't live up to the hype for me. I'm just going to go with the first two ones I thought of. But I have to say, like, Colin and I, in doing Knockback, that was like such an awesome opportunity to just obliterate my notoriously massive video game backlog. We played a lot of games. We played all the BioShock games, all the Halos, all the Uncharteds, The Last of Us, Far Cry 3, Mass Effect, Dead Space, all the Metal Gear Solid games. Like we covered a ton of games. And I have to say, it was super rewarding. Like it was an amazing experience. And to a game, I had an amazing time. Some even better than others. It was very rarely did I have a game that didn't live up to the hype for me, which is, which says a lot for the games that fall short, because I always have a great time. It just happens that I always have a great time. But the one game that we covered for Knockback that really stood out, that I really ended up falling madly in love with, for whatever reason, I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't know exactly the rhyme or reason behind it, but it's Horizon Zero Dawn. I loved my time with that game, and it was late. I played it at least a few years after it came out. And I know a lot of it was just trapping and luring in those robotic dinosaurs, like battling the dinosaurs. Like that was that propelled me through the game, like just the enjoyment of doing that. Now, I loved other games too. Alan Wake 2, BioShock Infinite. For whatever reason, I loved that freaking game so much. But Horizon Zero Dawn stood sort of head and shoulders above the other ones as just a game I fell madly in love with. I haven't even played the second Horizon game yet, which is kind of criminally insane. But that first game, dude, chef's kiss. Like I just enjoyed that game. It's probably my favorite video game experience of all time, pound for pound. Even dating back to really old school stuff that I love, even dating back to the 2D fighting games that I love, the Neo Geo stuff and the Capcom stuff. Horizon Zero Dawn was just something. There was just something special, like the chemistry between me and that game. It just hit on all cylinders. Now I'm gonna for the flip side, I'm gonna make a lot of people upset with this, and I've picked on this game, and a lot of it is kind of like a Succession thing with me. Like I think it's more me than the game, but the one game, and you guys know how much I love Nintendo. I really do love Nintendo with every fiber of my being. Like I just love that company. I love them dating back. I love them in a current sense. But a couple of years ago, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom was a huge disappointment for me. And it wasn't that it was a bad game. Not at all. I think it's actually ironically a great game. It's just that, first of all, I wasn't a huge Breath of the Wild fan. And in a lot of ways, right? I know I'm going to piss a lot of people off, but it's Breath of the Wild too. And I think really, if you got to dig down into my reasons for this, I'm an old head. And I'm an old video game head and an old Nintendo head, an old Zelda stan. And I liked my Zelda sort of flavored with big departures between each iteration. You know, like I'm the guy who loved, I don't know, what's a good example? Wind Waker, because it wasn't Majora's Mask. Right? Like I love those steep iterations and kind of reimagining. And I always thought Zelda really lent itself to that. So to have Breath of the Wild Part 2, and the writing was on the wall. It wasn't like a surprise. It was just like, wow, I just want something different now. Let's do something different. Let's be inventive. Let's kind of reinvent the wheel. Not reinvent the wheel. You want those foundational things that make it Zelda and make it Link and make it Hyrule, but just give me something different every time out, right? And I think I never even got that far with Tears of the Kingdom, and we were doing Punching Up at the time, which adds insult to injury, just because I couldn't get my teeth into it. I just couldn't sink my teeth into it to enjoy it to a level. So that was Tears of the Kingdom was the big disappointment, just because I feel like my favorite Nintendo is Nintendo who's innovating. And it's not that it wasn't innovative. I know the mechanics and the crafting were taken to this other exquisite level, and the shit people were doing, both in game and actually to be funny, added a level of like insanity to that game that I think is actually awesome. And I enjoyed it as a fan, but there was no way I was going to see that game through to the end, just because there's something about it where it's like, I've been there and done that, and I didn't even enjoy it that much the first time. Again, controversial stance. I get it. If you got to give me the hate, you got to give me the hate. But again, I'm going with my first thing that came to mind, and genuinely, and I don't really, every video game is kind of like a positive payoff for me, almost always.
Nice.
So that was really the one thing where it was like, I'm kind of over it before I even started. Not that I hated it. Not that I don't acknowledge it as a great game.
You played it before. That's the main
I was day one with that game. I was day one with Breath of the Wild 2 when the Switch came out. And I was just like, I just couldn't. And my son, who kind of cut his teeth, he's 14 now, but he cut his teeth on Breath of the Wild and like loved it and was like in. I mean, he was just really invested, really kind of had the same thing with Tears of the Kingdom, where it was like, I don't know if he was just ready for something else. Obviously, generationally, he doesn't come from that thing where Zelda's being reinvented, both gameplay and world building and visually every time. I just kind of missed that. I know it's different now. It's a little more conservative. Nintendo, maybe you could argue, takes a little less risk with their, keystone franchises, but that was the one for me where it was, and that's really, honestly, authentically, that's the only one I could really think of, especially going through like 5 or 6, 7 years of knockback, where it was like, we were playing a lot of video games.
Yeah.
And a lot of must-play games that, some of which I had serious FOMO over. It's like, I know I'm missing out on something special. So to have the chance to get around to all those, really, it's ironic that it's a Nintendo game that let me down the most. I don't know if you could have called that, but yeah, that was the one for me.
What made you connect to Horizon Zero Dawn so much? Because it's funny that you mentioned it, because I have the opposite with that game. That was one of my. It wasn't the biggest disappointment because I didn't expect much of that game. But that was one of those. That was one of those games like, this is a Sony exclusive. Like, I've already played this game a million times before, but maybe that's because did you play many Ubisoft games over the past decade and a half? Because it's the same template, and that's why I was disappointed with it. But if you haven't, then I can, of course, see that this was like something amazing.
I love you guys are much more tuned in to the video game world and games and developers than I am. So not only do you bring a much more educated perspective, but your vantage point is, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's really, it's more valid because you have a broader context. You know what I mean? For me, it's more simple. It's like, oh, this game is really entertaining. I don't even know what I'm comparing it to. You know what I mean? Because I never really played another game like it. It's kind of a weird one for me. I do like third-person games over first person for sure. I mean, that's a small bit to nitpick, but there's also something about like a future primitive thing that I like a, for instance, like a cyber Western, like blending primitive, whether it's Viking or cowboy or Native American or whatever, that type of thing with futuristic elements. I kind of like, I just kind of like that kind of level of world building. But I think if pound for pound, if you had to say it in a word, it's the robot dinosaurs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
I grew up, I'm an 80s kid. I grew up with the Dinobots.
Yeah.
Now they're massive and I'm fighting them and I'm figuring out ways to, like, I went to I exceeded whatever great lengths I should have went to formulate traps and try to trap those. Like, I didn't even have to do that. You know what I mean? I would say, okay, this type of dinosaur. Let me learn its behavior. I'm going to buy or craft or buy these items to trap it. Like, I could have just went around it at the end of the day, but I enjoyed that aspect of the game. And I also thought they were kind of, I'm a scaredy cat by nature, but I thought those robot dinosaurs were really intimidating. Like, they were kind of menacing in the game, and that you would be pursued by them, and some had a better sense of, radar, and they could pick you up, whether they could hear you or see you with their red light. Like, there was something eerie about it that I really enjoyed. Like there was a sense of danger that I really kind of dug. And there were definitely faults with the game. Like, I think I definitely soft locked in the game at one point. Like, I got caught in between like this cliff and this fence.
Oh yeah.
So there were definitely problems, but I just I remember enjoying it so much that it was like, this doesn't even compute. Like, it doesn't even make sense.
That's awesome though. That's so cool. What do you think of Aloy, the protagonist? Because that's the thing that bothered me the most. Was like, that to me anyway, she felt so bland. But maybe you loved her. I don't know.
Yeah, she wasn't the type of character. Like, she wasn't a Nathan Drake where you're getting all this, you're getting all this texture or anything like that. She was kind of a vehicle to get through the game with, right? Like, she wasn't anything special or memorable. But I know the big discussion around it, especially for the second game, was how hot she should be and all that kind of thing. But you know what I mean? For me, it was just kind of like, that was the tool I went through the game with. That was the game too, interestingly. Like, I wasn't even that tuned in to the story or the relationship with her dad or, the legacy. Like, I wasn't even really dialed into that aspect of the game. Like, some of the games, you're in it for the story. I think of Halo, I think of the Uncharted story, The Last of Us, Mass Effect, especially the first two BioShock games. Like, you know what I mean? That's part of the enjoyment. It's part of the journey. But that game, I wasn't even really, it was purely, maybe that's the thing. Like, it was purely just enjoying playing that game.
That's awesome though. That's perfect. Like, you enjoyed the loop so much that it elevated it. That's so cool.
I really loved it. Yeah.
I love that. That's so cool.
So fun. Just fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. What about you, Dustin?
We'll start off negative with the disappointments. Get that out of the way.
Sure.
Locke, you already mentioned one of them, and that's Mass Effect Andromeda. This game, I was really excited about it. I had it pre-ordered at Best Buy to arrive at my house on launch day. And I was seeing the reviews come in, seeing the footage of how broken it was at launch. And I was so upset as such a big Mass Effect fan that I ended up not even playing it. I returned it. I took it to Best Buy and I got my money back. Because that was, especially at a time, what year was that?
2017.
I was going to ask.
14? What was it?
Andromeda 2017.
No way.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah. I think so, at least, unless I'm wrong.
2017.
So.
We are dying. That would have been the last year that Holly and I lived in our old apartment. So yeah, money was definitely tight, or not tight, but like, if there was a game I bought that I wasn't going to like and that was bad, it was like, no, I'm not doing that. So I ended up returning it, and I've never played it since then.
Oh,
and
wow.
I'm okay with that. I think I'm okay with not tainting my view of Mass Effect. That original trilogy is just so good. Yeah. And so yeah, that was a big disappointment. The other one, when I was thinking about this, I'm like, I'm actually glad that overall I feel like I don't have a ton of these. And especially now, I feel like I can have a pretty good read on if I'm going to like a game or not. And there's like some soft disappointments too, or ones I've come to terms with. Like, Locke, you can revel in this. Kingdom Hearts 3, a little bit of a disappointment.
I agree.
You know, they they dialed back on the Final Fantasy crossover element of it, which was unfortunate. I need to play it again, and I'm going to do a full series replay through as we get closer to 4. I need to play it again with fresh eyes. Maybe it'll be different. But at the time, I still like it, and I still think it's a good and sometimes great game. But at the time, I remember being like, man, we waited a long time for this game, and it's not like, flipping over to the positive side, Kingdom Hearts 2, which was a game that I waited and it was so excited for, and it ended up being better than the original.
Nice.
In a lot of ways. That was a big one for me in 4th grade, I think. But this, as far as another like met every expectation and exceeded them, this was recent and pretty on brand for me. But Elden Ring was a game that,
of course,
I don't want to say that I had doubts about it, but I was unsure about how From Software would take their Souls formula into an open world. How would that work? They've never made a game like this, so there's a big risk creatively for them to stray away from what they had already done. And then, man, it just became a complete obsession for me, and really innovated in the way that they took a lot of what made a game that Dagan doesn't like, Breath of the Wild. They took a lot of this idea of what an open world could be from Breath of the Wild and just improved and made it more expansive, I guess, in some ways. I don't know what the quite right way to put it, but this idea that an open world doesn't need to be a checkbox game. There's nothing wrong with checkbox games here and there.
Yeah.
But we were getting to a point with open world games where it's like, we know exactly what we're getting from these. And Breath of the Wild really was like, whether you like it or not, it's like, this is a very different way of doing this. And so Elden Ring was able to take that idea and really evolve on it while keeping true to the core tenets of their combat, and, you know, the boss battles, the things that really make those games special. So Elden Ring was, I mean, so exciting when that came out. And it's still, the DLC was also a great follow-up. Excited for what they're going to, I have the same feeling about Elden Ring Night Rain right now. It's like, you guys have never really done a multiplayer focused project like this. So it feels a little iffy, but I've been wrong before about them. So Locke, in your email, you also mentioned general gaming disappointments that aren't necessarily just a game. So I wrote some of those down too.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
I wrote down 3 gaming disappointments from my life that aren't necessarily just a bad game.
Sure.
Number 1, when Mega Man Legends 3 was canceled. I love Mega Man Legends, one of my favorite childhood series. They announced the 3rd one on the 3DS, and they wanted to do this like community feedback project thing where people could go and like comment and stuff on different things to development. No one wanted to do that. I personally don't want to do that as a fan of the series. I just want to play it. And Capcom read that as people don't have interest in this game. And maybe they don't. Maybe there's other elements. So I was really disappointed when that was canceled. Number 2, this is an ongoing disappointment that I'm sure is shared by many in the community. That's just the lack of anything Bloodborne. Is just a constant disappointment in my life. No updates, no, remakes, no remasters, no 60 FPS, no nothing. It's like it doesn't exist in some ways.
Yeah.
And it's crying shame when every other game gets a remaster or a remake or a sequel or whatever. And I respect Miyazaki, and if he doesn't want to do it right now, that's fine. But I'm still disappointed.
I get that.
The last one, this is a big one, boys, is in, I think, 2003 or 4, when someone stole my Game Boy Color.
Oh, damn.
And I think, so this was a time when my parents were helping out with the youth group at my church. And I wasn't in the youth group yet, but sometimes I was brought along. And so I would bring my Game Boy. There's this one kid there that we're pretty sure that he stole the Game Boy.
Oh no!
Like kind of an outsider from our church, though. I don't really remember what the situation was. We think that it might have been him. No proof. But this was a relatively new Game Boy Color. Like I think I had it less than a year. I had my Pokemon games in the bag and just poof. It's gone.
Oh, that's horrible.
So I think I eventually did get a new Game Boy Color, but it wasn't the same, and I didn't have my Pokemon games. And so I'm still feeling the effects of that all these years later.
The fact that you kind of know who it was too just makes it worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes it so much worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you ever confront him?
What?
Did you ever confront that kid or?
I'm gonna have to talk to my parents about the situation because they were like, we think it might have been this guy, but I think it was just a hunch. I don't think it was like something that you could really confront and be like, we think you did this. But I honestly don't know if this guy even regularly came to the youth group. I think he was, like I said, like a visitor or a friend of somebody.
Sure.
So
he came once in a while to steal shit.
Yeah. Kids stealing a Game Boy from a second grader. Imagine the level
at
of
church.
At church.
That's the worst. Yeah.
What is even happening?
Oh,
I'll round us out with two other positive gaming things, surprises or things that were fulfilling. One you'll love, Locke. Here is despite end up being a disappointing game, Kingdom Hearts 3, when it was announced, was amazing because Kingdom Hearts 2 came out in like 2004, I think, maybe 2005. And then between that, we got all of these like mobile, or not mobile, but like mobile console games. So like there was a PSP game, multiple DS games, a 3DS game. And so we were like, what is going on? Where's Kingdom Hearts 3? We thought it would come on the PS3. No. Kingdom Hearts skipped the entire console generation of PS3. And then I think it was when the PS4 and one of the reveals, maybe that E3, there was a Kingdom Hearts trailer. And it was crazy just for me as an adult at that point, being like, wow, it's finally happening. I've waited for Kingdom Hearts 3 since I was in 4th grade. Here I am. I think I was in college at that point, and it's finally real. And then, of course, it didn't come out for another 4 years after that or something. And I was an adult and married, going to GameStop to picking up Kingdom Hearts 3, and I was like, wow, this has been with me for a while. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
The other one is in the same vein, but when Final Fantasy VII Remake was finally announced, that was, Sony was a huge tease about this. They had that tech demo on PS3. People wanted it so bad.
Oh, wow.
It was like people wanted a remake of that game so bad. And then the reveal trailer was excellent. So exciting. That E3 in general was so exciting. And then ended up being an amazing game as well. So that was like, it's great when there's hype that then follows up with actually like, this is truly excellent.
Sure.
That was a great example of that. But I think that's about it for me. A lot of weeb shit.
Well,
that's on brand.
Okay. That's okay. Yeah, that's perfect. That fits you.
Persona 5. Persona 5, so anticipated by me, kept getting delayed, came out excellent. Second best game of that year. Only behind Nier Automata, Locke's other favorite game.
When was this? 2020, 2021?
2017.
Oh, 2017.
For Persona 5.
Wow, is it that old?
Yep. It was released on PS3 and PS4. That's how old it is.
I didn't realize that either, actually.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
But that's so funny. Breath of the Wild, Horizon Zero Dawn also released in 2017.
Oh, that is interesting.
I always say talking about 2017, for my personal taste, was like one of the best years ever in gaming, because
that's a banner year.
Zelda, Persona, Nier Automata, which totally surprised me. Of course, there's like Horizon in there too. There's some other stuff. It was
Switch itself was 2017, wasn't it? Right? March.
Yep. That was that year as well. So Cuphead came out that year.
Yes.
Mario Odyssey came out that year.
A lot of good ones.
Yeah.
A lot of crazy stuff.
Holy moly. You know, I'm sitting here thinking as you guys are talking, like, especially like the heartbreak. You're invested in a video game franchise, and an iteration comes out, the newest version, the newest chapter, and you're disappointed by it. And I'm like, why have I never been burned by that? Like, I don't feel like I've ever suffered as a result of like, and maybe it was like dates back to what I'm talking about with Zelda. It's like we were a generation that was raised, I think, to be accepting of sequels, even when they were steep departures from the previous iteration. In fact, we expected it to be different, right? Mario 1, Mario 2, Zelda 1, Zelda 2, Mega Man 1, Mega Man 2, Castlevania and Simon's Quest. Like, we always expected the second iteration to kind of like turn things on their heads. Maybe that's why we're never disappointed by sequels. But then I remembered something very important to my generation. Street Fighter 2 was the most drawn out fucking shit in the world until they finally got to like Super Street Fighter and they put the 4 new characters in and it started to be a departure. Then we got Alpha. Finally, after years, we got Street Fighter 3. And people were like, what the fuck is this? And they weren't even going to put, I just found out recently that they weren't even going to put Ryu and Ken in it. They just had to have some sort of tether to what came before. And I remember people hating it. I didn't hate it to that degree because I saw the assets. I saw the upside, like the animation was beautiful. The 2D sprite work was at a whole nother level. Like I saw the evolution, at least visually. And it was interesting that, it was kind of reiterating and it seemed like bold, even if they were going to shoot themselves in the foot. They tried something different. And of course, I think you had Ken and Ryu in there to kind of connect to what came before. But people, my generation, especially 2D fighting game heads, like hated that fucking game. And it wasn't until I think Third Strike came out where it was like they actually, the fighting game community accepted that game. And I wasn't even part of the fighting game community. Like I was nowhere near that good, but I just enjoyed 2D fighting games, especially the Capcom stuff, especially the Neo Geo stuff. But yeah, that game, I remember just from being a follow-up to something that we waited for, like Street Fighter 2 was a joke that they would just put, turbo, hyper fighting. It was just version after version after version for years, right? Yeah. Since 1990 or something, right? So the better part of a decade of doing that. And then Street Fighter 3 came out. I remember seeing it, like no hype. It was a specific period of my life where I wasn't dialed into video games at all. Like I was out of art school. There were no more downtown Philadelphia arcades. Wasn't really paying attention to what was going on in the console space. Like Street Fighter 3 dropped, didn't even know it was in development, saw it in like a movie theater lobby and went over to it and sort of rekindled the excitement. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, not only did I know this wasn't coming, but what is this? The characters are very strange. There's really no kind of connection to the world that came before. So, yeah. But I remember that. I do remember my generation of old heads being like, what is this? And then kind of a cool payoff in Third Strike and then kind of getting it folded into the fighting game community and, the greatness of Capcom that would eventually ensue. But that was a really bad period for Capcom. Interesting bit of history if you paid attention to that company, especially where they are now.
Yeah.
Right? It's like quite a journey.
Do you still pay attention to Street Fighter these days? Do you still
I do. I'm kind of I'll
awesome.
explain that in my next topic. I'm kind of back into what's going on with the franchise in particular, fighting games in general, but particularly what's going on with Capcom.
Dagan,
awesome.
Yeah. I have to dust off the Moriarty lore. I think I might know about a disappointment, but maybe not because Colin brings this up.
All right.
About the night that you brought home the game Deadly Towers. Were you excited?
So excited, dude.
Maybe that's a good one.
That's an early one too. And you know what? That's when you learn, because I was just turning 14 when the NES dropped and we were getting one. So I was like, maybe I turned 14 in early December and then for Christmas we got it. So I was like a freshly minted 14-year-old. And that was at the time when, there was a departure between Atari. I was really little and we had no video games for a while, at least at home. We had the arcades. And then, this thing came out and we were judging, like the Atari days when I was 5-6 years old, we were judging things by the box art. You can't do that, but we didn't know any better. And the Deadly Towers, shout out Broderbund, fucking terrible video game developer who may still be around in some form. Just got our NES action set, which like came with, it was the one without the zapper and without Duck Hunt, but it had Mario packed in and a couple of controllers, I think. So that was our other game. You know what I mean? I had a little extra bread. Got one game, dude. That was the most heinous. That not only was it bad, but you're trying, like Dustin was saying about vacations, you're trying to squeeze every bit of value out of this thing because you just dropped $50 on it.
Yeah.
And so seeing it through the end, although it was actually painful, not only was it terrible, it was just painful, and beating it in one day or something just because you just force yourself to get to the end of this thing because you just bought it. And that's when, and what's also like, there was that little sliver of time when NES existed, but before the video stores rented out NES cartridges. So you couldn't even do the $3 weekend trial because that wasn't a thing yet, at least that we knew about.
Yeah.
So you dropped $50 on like, if Nintendo Power said a blurb, like that was it. That's like all you had eventually. So yeah, Deadly Towers was, that's a good call up, Dust. Yeah, that was definitely. And then there were subsequent, there were many Deadly Towers to come, that being the first experience. But then the rental experiences, it was like I dropped $3 or $4 rather than for a weekend, rather than dropping $50-$60 of my birthday money that grandma gave me,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I would have been better for my clueless grandparents to go into Toys R Us and roll the dice than me pick out that game on purpose. You know what I mean? Like it was that bad, but it was
What was it? Well, what kind of game was it?
Deadly Towers was kind of like it was. I mean, technically, it's an action game, but it was a screen by screen, didn't scroll, right? So it was screen by screen. It was kind of like a more zoomed in Gauntlet that didn't scroll.
Oh,
but but that makes it sound good. I don't know how. I don't know how else to terrible loop one serious 5-second looping musical thing that just went through the entire game. Hours. Maddening. Just maddening. Just like criminal that somebody would charge $50 for this, and totally just take advantage of children. Just take advantage of children. It was child abuse, essentially. But child abuse they had to pay for. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah. Pay to be abused by Deadly Towers.
That's a good call up. That's a good call up.
Awesome.
I missed that era, but like there was so much risk involved, but it was so analog because there was no YouTube, there was no looking up reviews.
Sure, yeah.
Right? It was like you took a shot. Maybe it paid off and it probably didn't.
I remember those days too, where you had to go to the store and read like the back of the box and that's all you had. Yeah.
That's it. And that's where that's when you started to notice brand names like Capcom and Konami and Sunsoft and like, all right, 3 of these 4 Sunsoft games were awesome. So I'm not really taking that much of a risk. They started to develop a reputation. You look at that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Broderbund, a name which will live in infamy. Seriously.
It sounds German. It has to be German.
I don't know. Yeah, it does sound like they are. And they were like, if I'm not mistaken, they were like a software, like a computer software manufacturer that saw the dollar signs when Nintendo came out and like, we could develop games for that. They were like a marginal B tier computer software company that just got into the console space with Nintendo. Short lived. I don't think it lasted very long.
Well, you'll be happy to hear that they went out of business in 1998, so they haven't been around for a long time.
Still, they lasted 11 years after Deadly Tower, or whatever it was, like 12 years. They should have been obliterated, nuked immediately. They almost made it through the 90s. That's insane. Wonder what else they did. If you look at their body of work for NES, I wonder what else they foisted upon the video game public.
They made a lot of games here. They made like
A lot of PC
Whoa.
games.
They made Star Wars games too, I see.
Did they really?
Yeah, they made Star Wars 1983 video game.
Mm.
Oh, the first Star Wars game? No. Yeah. The first Unreal Star Wars shooter.
The Vector X-Wing one?
No, before the arcade video game Atari 1983.
Oh, shit. I don't know if I realized they made that. That's not a bad game.
That was yeah.
Oh, so maybe they had their bright spots.
They made Prince of Persia too. What the hell? The original one.
Really?
Unless or at least they published it.
They published it. Okay. That's another thing too. Like who developed it, who published it. That was like kind of shady back then.
Well, it says here on Wikipedia. I don't know if that's true or not, but that they developed it and published it. That's crazy.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
You think a software company that big, like I'm sure like anything else had an A team and a B team, and they were doing their higher end projects and their shovel-y projects at the same time, right? Trying to stay in the black.
Yeah, of course.
Oof, Deadly Tower. They spent the whole budget on that illustration that suckered everybody into buying it. And then
well, I'm looking at it now. Yeah, the cover looks really cool.
It's cool, especially for back then. It stood out. Like, you have to understand, like it was all the black box games, which had like illustrations of 8-bit graphics, and then you had this gorgeous fantasy illustration. Stood out.
Yeah,
you know,
I can imagine. Yeah.
Oh boy, it still hurts. Still hurts.
All right. Well, no, that awesome. I'm very satisfied. Both great answers. Awesome.
That's a fun one. And it's one of those topics too, Locke, where I think, I'm going to think of some more stuff, but it's, once we hit the stop button on the record, I'm going to think of more of these things. But then,
well, yeah, there wasn't a lot of time. I had to send it like an hour ago. So sorry.
That is true. But I like topics like that.
Yeah.
It's raw, just genuine takes. Give it to me, baby. Give it to me. Listen, we're going to go out with mine. It's actually connected from what we're talking about. Ironically, it wasn't planned this way, but it's a happy accident. Told you guys, I want you to think of, this is your dream. This is your fantasy. Dream mashups, collabs. If you had to collide two beloved worlds that you like, crossovers, in this era where we have so much content, right? It's weird maybe, but I'm always dreaming up these pairings. Like which of these favorites should combine forces and do another thing? And it's been, I know what kind of kicked this up for me. And that's because I've been back into with the Capcom fighting collections that are coming out. I've been really into Marvel versus Capcom again. And Marvel versus Capcom was a very special thing for me. I'm going to save it for a podcast that I'm going to do to talk about it in depth. But I want to talk about the fact how important it was to me, not only as a video game lover and a lover of 2D fighters, but as an artist and as an animator. Like it was a very special thing for me that just kind of like, I don't know, extended the importance of Capcom for us and then involved Marvel pre-Disney, which is a very special era, very special slice of time. But it's interesting if I go back to 1990 and falling in love with fighting games and the whole half controller arc, button, fireball, dragon punch dynamic that made me fall in love with games again as a teenager, right? This whole thing of like thinking back to 1990, 91, Dagan, like, oh my gosh, like in 6, 7, 8 years, Capcom and Marvel are going to start crossing up with X-Men versus Street Fighter and then Marvel versus Capcom and everything to come. Like these two worlds, these two beloved worlds collided and they did it so well. I thought like, all right, well, I wonder what the other boys, what would be their things if they could take TV or movies, think franchises, cinematic universes, right? There's no rules. Musicians, groups, bands, YouTubers, YouTube channels. We talk about that sometimes who we want to see get together and make some awesome content. Video game series, video game developers, right? What if Hideo Kojima and Neil Druckmann got together and made something, right? Franchises, film directors, whatever you want to, who do you want to see team up and create something awesome? And again, that for me, it started with Marvel versus Capcom and those two worlds colliding. And before Disney had all these rules with Marvel, and it's just kind of this raw anime, if you will, take on, and just sort of fun. Like how ridiculous is it to see Chun-Li fighting Magneto? Like it's weird, but it's fucking awesome. Amazing.
Yeah.
Right. So in that spirit, I'm going to hand it over to you guys. Locke, I'll start with you. If you
Well,
had
when
to have a dream mashup, or maybe you have a bunch, and maybe you have something that they would do together, whatever. This is your world. This is your fantasy. You pitch it to me however you want.
Well, when I read your topic earlier, there was one thing or two things that immediately sprung to mind. Because you'll remember this, you both remember this. In the early 2000s, TV was like really on the rise. Like right now, it's everywhere, of course, with the streaming services. But in the early 2000s, you had 3 shows, right? That were it. That was The Sopranos, 24, and Lost. Those were the 3 shows of the 2000s.
You're right. Yeah.
And kind of like how Dustin was earlier talking about Severance, that's how I felt about Lost back then. I know you've done Lost on Knockback. I think you guys stopped in the middle of it.
Yeah, we didn't get all the way through.
Yeah, but you did like the first couple of seasons, right? It would be so cool, and I can't believe they haven't done this yet. If there was a new show like Severance, for instance, or like a new show that has like the same cadence as Lost, I think Severance is kind of like that show maybe right now. But I would love it if in the middle of that show, of this new show, it would turn out that it's an actual sequel to Lost. There's this...
I said, whoa.
Whoa, oh yeah.
I love secret sequels.
It's very deep. There's this new show called From. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
No.
I just heard of that last night. One of the Severance YouTubers I watched referenced that show. That's weird.
Yeah, exactly. I never heard of it up until 2 weeks ago because it's on some streaming services that I can't even get where I live. Maybe it's not on Paramount. It's on MGM or something. I don't know.
MGM Plus, yeah.
Yeah. That simply doesn't exist there. I found it anyway through one of our other streaming services here that just collects everything. So I watched it, and it basically is kind of a semi-sequel to Lost because it takes place in a little town, and the main protagonist of the show is Michael from Lost, Harold Perrineau, the actor. And it takes place in a little town, and the premise of the show is people are trapped in this town and they can't get out. Like whenever they try to leave the town, it just loops them back into the town, and they can't get out. And at night, monsters come out and try to kill them.
I did hear about this.
That's the whole premise of the show. So
is it good?
Well, I watched all 3 seasons in like 1 week, like a week and a half. And the first 5 episodes, I want to say, I was completely in. I thought, wow, this is amazing. This is finally the new Lost. I've been looking for this for 20 years. It's so cool. Cliffhangers and mysteries kept building. But then when they started answering, or not really answering, when they started asking more questions at you, I began to realize the same thing I began to realize with Lost. But with Lost, it was after 6 seasons when we were already at the end. But here I started realizing it in season 1. It's like, oh, they don't know what they're doing. They're just making it up on the spot. And then see who's popular and see who's not popular and then just go from there. It's good. It's nowhere near Lost. I think season 1 was really cool. Season 2 was boring. I didn't really care for it. Season 3 is a huge step up again. So
that's cool.
I'm very, very curious to see where it goes. But it's not on the same level of Severance. Not at all. It's like pulpy television. It's fun. It's fun to watch. The mysteries are cool. Like the questions you get asked are awesome. But a lot of characters have plot armor. A lot of you kind of can see where it's going. It's also not like Lost. I think Lost, to me, Lost is still the pinnacle of cliffhanger TV, which doesn't really exist anymore.
Yeah.
And this show tries to be that, and it is in some episodes, but then in others it's not. So it's not on the same level, but it's still pretty cool. But that got me thinking, like, it would be so cool to have like a show that's an actual sequel to Lost, but just call it something else. Don't tell anyone it's a sequel to Lost, but put like little hints in there.
I love that.
By season 2, you're suddenly like, oh shit, we're watching the sequel to Lost. That would be so cool.
So this show is not a sanctioned, acknowledged canon part of Lost at all.
No, it's not connected at all.
Okay.
Michael is like the main protagonist, and he's called different. And it's like a different guy. So it's not.
Okay.
It's in no way connected. But it is made. It's directed by the same guy who directed a couple of Lost episodes, or a lot of Lost episodes, Jack Bender.
Oh wow!
And I think I think some of the writers are also the same. It's not Damon Lindelof. He's doing great other stuff.
Oh, okay.
But he's not connected to this. Yeah, he made The Leftovers. He made Mrs. Davis. Well,
I got to watch The Leftovers. I got to watch that. I haven't seen that.
Leftovers is art. Beautiful.
Really?
Art. Yeah.
It's crazy.
I gotta
Yeah.
watch that.
It's
That I
very
gotta
good.
watch.
It's like almost to the point. There's some parts where it kind of hits my too weird meter, but not enough that I don't like it. I need to watch that show again, like soon, actually.
Very emotional too.
That's
Very-
HBO too, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's weird
Yep.
that I haven't seen an HBO series, but yeah, haven't seen that. Okay.
He also made a Watchmen. That's of course the
Right.
The new
show
one,
that- yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I forgot about that too.
Also great. And now he made Mrs. Davis, which is also a pretty good show. It's very weird, but I liked what I saw. But that guy is a genius. He's not involved with From, but it kind of has that same feeling of Lost, you know, like there's a mystery and people can't get out, and then there's no flashbacks, but you get to know the characters, and this one is connected to this one, and this one is connected to that, and the monsters have like this explanation of why they're there. So it's really cool to go with the mystery. I don't know why it's not more famous. It should be more famous, I think, but maybe it will be at some point.
It
when
sounds
hits
cool.
Netflix. Yeah, it's. I wouldn't. It's tough because it's a good show. It's fun to watch, but it's not on that same level yet. But maybe it will get there. At some point.
It's a great premise. And I wonder with something like that, are they just kind of like subtly actually making people realize it's somehow connected to the Lost? Like they're not going out of their way to say it's not connected to the Lost. Like it helps them.
Yeah.
And feeling like, okay,
definitely.
maybe this is connected somehow, even if it's just the creators or the actors, right? It kind
Yeah.
of benefits them in some way to not challenge that too much, even though it's not.
Yeah,
not
you can.
connected.
Yeah. It has that same feeling. You both watched Lost, I presume.
Yeah.
You watched
Oh,
the
yeah.
show. Remember when an episode ended and it always ended on a huge cliffhanger? You were like, "What the? How can I?
Yeah,
I don't I
always.
have to wait another week." It's the same thing here, but you don't have to wait a week.
Mhm.
You can just watch the next one right away. But that, of course, Lost, one of my favorite shows. But that got me thinking, like the other big show from the 2024. It's kind of ended on a whimper, like I want to say 2013 or something, or 2011, 2014. It ended in a kind of weird way. Like, well, I'm not going to spoil it, but it ended kind of openly. There wasn't really a definitive end, and it's kind of weird that they never picked it back up, right? Like they just stopped making them. So it would be really cool to have like a new action show and not call it 24 and not have anything to do with it, but then suddenly have Jack Bauer show up in it, or have him be the villain or whatever, or have him be the main guy. Just have him do anything in that new show, in that universe. And then 24 was always very grounded in reality, or at least they tried to make it grounded in reality. So it could be any cop show, or it could be any show that's connected to it. That would be really cool. Now, I tried looking at movies who could do this, and there was this 21 Jump Street reboot a couple of years ago, or like a decade ago.
I remember that.
And then the rumor was that the sequel to the sequel, so 23 Jump Street, I guess, was going to make a connection with Men in Black. Have you ever heard this rumor?
No, I never heard this.
Oh, so Men in Black
No.
and 23 Jump Street were going to be like this big crossover movie.
What?
Now, there was never, it never leaked what the script was or what the real thing was, but apparently it was a real thing that was supposed to come out, but they never made it. Which sounds really crazy, but it kind of works, I think, if you think
That's
about it.
wild.
Yeah. Two things that are completely not connected to each other, but it could kind of work, I guess.
Like that.
They both have the same kind of humor too. But that got me thinking, which other movies could be connected like that? And then, of course, you have the easy ones, right? Like The Expendables and Fast and the Furious. That's a given. Like those are very easy
I
to
love
connect
that.
to each other. Which would be a fun movie, I think. Could be a fun movie.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And then another one, maybe a more serious one, and one that could actually work, I think, is Terminator and RoboCop. Maybe make it Terminator versus RoboCop or something like that.
Why
or Terminator
not?
and RoboCop and something like that. And then, of course, you also have the three spies, James Bond, Ethan Hunt from Mission Impossible, and Jason Bourne.
Whoa.
Now, you can't really mash them. That would destroy each universe, I think, if you mash them up. But it would be cool. We're getting a new James Bond at some point soon, I think. They still haven't confirmed who's going to play him. But
Oh, it's not going to be Daniel Craig?
no, he's out.
He's
out.
done.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. No, they've been looking for one for, I want to say, 4
I
years, 5
didn't
years
know.
now.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. Have you not seen the last one? Yeah.
Interesting.
Everyone wants it to be Henry Cavill, of course, but I don't think they're going to do that.
Okay.
It's
I
too
could see
connected
that.
to other stuff. Yeah, that would be cool.
I could
but
definitely see that.
I think they might go for a younger one this time, so they can really milk it for the next 30 years.
That
or
makes
something.
sense. Yeah, that would make
But they
sense.
haven't confirmed who it is yet. But it would be so cool. Next year is the last, in quotation marks, Mission Impossible movie that's coming out with Tom Cruise.
Okay.
They're supposedly done after this one, so I presume they're going to do the Dark Knight Rises thing where he dies at the end, but he's not really dead or something like that. So it would be cool if he shows up in like the new James Bond as like the American equivalent or something like that. It'll never happen, but that would be really cool.
These are great ideas, Locke.
Well, thank you.
I love it.
And then the thing you already brought up is, of course, when you think of crossovers these days, Marvel, that's like the key to crossovers. They did it beautifully in Endgame and Infinity War, the best culmination maybe of crossovers we've ever seen. This is also one that will never happen, but Marvel versus DC would be so cool to see at some point on the big screen. It's impossible. It'll never happen, especially not now with James Gunn taking over DC, which I'm very excited about. But
yeah,
it would be so cool to see all these characters fight against each other in like a movie thing. They kind of did it in The Flash with the DC universe. Like the Flash movie had this they brought back Michael Keaton, they brought back George Clooney, but it wasn't great. They did a pretty bad job doing it, which is, have you seen it? It's, oh man, it was heartbreaking.
No. Doesn't sound promising.
No, dude. Seeing Michael Caine again as Batman was that should have been a moment, right? But here it was like, oh.
I love him.
Yeah.
Oh, so they squandered that opportunity. That sucks.
Yeah.
That sucks.
That was a real shame. But that got me thinking to my real answer finally, now that we're getting there. Tarantino is one of my favorite directors. I think it's one of everyone's favorite director, right? And every movie in the Tarantino universe is somehow a little bit connected, right? I'm sure you've heard of this before, but like the lore behind the Tarantino universe is that some movies are actual movies in the Tarantino universe.
I love that.
Yeah, that's so cool. Right?
Absolutely,
I think that's amazing. So Kill Bill is a movie in the Tarantino universe. But there were at some point, Tarantino had an idea, and he wanted to make a movie called The Vega Brothers. And The Vega Brothers was supposed to be about Michael Madsen's character from Reservoir Dogs and then John Travolta's character from Pulp Fiction. They were brothers.
I forgot all about this.
Yeah, it's such a cool idea.
So good.
I'm so sad he's never gone through with it, because right now he's going to make his 10th and supposedly last movie.
Right.
And it was supposed to be The Movie Critic, but he always stepped away from that. It's going to be something else.
Oh,
But
I didn't know that. I thought it was still the Pauline. What is it? The movie critic. What was it? Pauline Gale? That's not right. Whatever her name was. All about her.
Yeah, I think he's. If I'm, unless I'm wrong, but I think he stepped away from that not that long ago, and it's open again. So I would love for him to finally make The Vega Brothers his last movie. It's never going to happen because those actors are way too old now, so you're going to have to recast them and stuff. But that would be so cool to have like the ending of his career, basically harkening back to his very first movie, Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, his first two movies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, first two, exactly. So that would be such a brilliant move to me. But I don't think we'll see that happen, of course. But that would be my answer.
I'm so glad you reminded me about that. I forgot all about that theory. And how much do you buy Michael Madsen and what's his name? John Travolta as brothers. Like it just especially of that era, early to mid 90s era.
Of course.
Madsen and Travolta, like it's a gimme.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant.
But you know how that started, right? Because Michael Madsen was supposed to play Vincent in Pulp Fiction, but he couldn't do it. So then he made them brothers, and then he cast John Travolta, which is such a cool move. Yeah.
Dude, I absolutely love that. And it's authentic. Like, Tarantino thinks like that.
Yeah.
Totally buy it. The Marvel DC thing is interesting too. And you would have like, I remember Marvel, probably late 90s, early 2000s, way pre-Disney Marvel. They were really struggling. Like, I always felt like they could have pulled that out, or DC, as like a desperation move. You know what I mean? But the thing is, like, and I'm like a big suspension of disbelief guy. Like, I could suspend my disbelief on command. Like, that stuff doesn't usually bother me. But once those worlds collide, right? Like once you combine Spidey and Superman, it creates baggage. It's like now you have to acknowledge these two worlds have always coexisted, unless you do some parallel universe time traveling type shit. I don't know, get tricky with it, and I think that is actually like mashing up Marvel and DC because of the history and everything it entails and everything it touches. Like it's a bridge too far, even for me.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Although it would be fascinating to see like that train wreck in motion.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's such a fascinating idea, right? But yeah,
or just a one-off.
It's too involved.
Yeah. Have you seen Venom? Or have you heard of Venom?
No.
You have like the Sony universe of Marvel, right? With Venom and then Morbius, I think. And there's what's that last one that was terrible?
Craven.
Oh yeah, Craven, the Hunter,
right?
Yeah. But Venom actually showed up at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, I think. Or Tom Hardy showed up because so they kind of colluded. They kind of meshed those two universes together and then immediately pulled them apart again because the Sony universe is terrible. Or at least it is now. But I think it would be cool to have like it doesn't happen. One-off movies don't happen anymore, apparently. But it would be cool to have like maybe an animated one-off movie.
Sure.
Or something that doesn't connect to anything else. Don't need any sequels. It's just Marvel versus DC, one movie. That's it. That's it. Nothing else.
See, that would be fun.
Yeah.
That would be really fun. And they're riding the wave of like the popularity of like this X-Men 97 thing.
Yeah.
Second season's happening now. Like, we never really got our favorite X-Men in a Disney, where's Gambit? Where's Nightcrawler? Like, we want to see all these guys, you know what I mean? Coexisting with Wolverine and Spider-Man and, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe properly, like combine those Sony and Disney worlds. So, and there's a lot. So then you combine, you kind of pull DC into that equation. It's interesting.
Have you seen Deadpool and Wolverine?
Yes. Finally saw it.
Okay. What do you think of it?
I think it was really well done. I think it's shepherded I think they're doing it what felt like should have been done from the beginning. You know what I mean? Like it's irreverent. I think Ryan Reynolds is great. I think what they're doing with the character is great. I think it's fun. I think it hits a lot of chords,
That was also a good one-off, I think.
Yeah.
Or at least I hope they're done with that now. Like
it's finished. They said that. I didn't hear about that.
No, they didn't say that, but it's kind of had me worried. There's this secret scene. Well, I don't want to spoil it, but there's a secret scene where one of the characters who dies in the thing now survives and jumps through a portal. So they leave it kind of open that he might return. I'll tell you after the recording.
Okay.
But so yeah, it's kind of done, but it's not done. So we'll see. But I think they're going to have to recast Wolverine anyway. Jackman is
right. That's right.
So old now.
Yeah, he's getting long in the tooth, long in the saber tooth. Yeah. I like what you said too, Locke, about like all the spin-offs. I mean, I think of like the cinematic stuff from the 80s. I mean, you could do RoboCop and Terminator. I mean, they did Alien and Predator, right? That was kind of a cash grab, but fun. And successful, and it kind of made its way into video games and comics. And, it started in the 70s. Like, remember like the soft spinoffs, like the Jeffersons came out of All in the Family, and by the time it arrived at the Jeffersons, almost none of All in the Family was involved in that, right? You even hopped boroughs from Queens to Brooklyn or vice versa. Like, so there was connective tissue, but it wasn't even important. But they still made that. They were still very intentional about making those two things connected, even though eventually, or, pretty soon on, it really didn't rely on where it came from. Yeah. So that's really interesting. I like stuff like that. I want to see a return to that. It's thoughtful. It adds kind of like depth to the world. You know what I mean? And I feel like there's not a lot of that anymore.
No, or at least not in a good way. Because, like you said, I think Perfect Strangers and Family Matters also like all those shows kind of connected.
Yeah, it's so weird. They did.
Yeah, they should do that again. It's weird that doesn't. You're right, though. That doesn't exist anymore. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, there was definitely a trend where, and it wasn't even like they were like milking cameo opportunities or anything like that. Like they were just distinctive worlds, but they blossomed from the thing previous.
Yeah.
Right. It just added depth if you knew it. It added like another level of texture, but you didn't even have to know it.
The only blatant example, but that's such a blatant example that it doesn't even count, is like Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad.
Good point. That's a really good point.
But that's the only one I can think of. Yeah, weird. They don't do that anymore.
I guess there's a lot of risk in it. Like Better Call Saul was amazing, right? But it came out of a very successful show in Breaking Bad. Like you could really fuck it up.
Yeah.
You know, and it takes somebody like a Vince Gilligan to say, all right, we could spin this off and make it just as good as, you know, where it came from, you know, where you could really tank it.
Yeah. That's what they did with Star Wars, right? They tanked it because they did that. Right? Everything's connected.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, exactly. It's the exact right. That's a great point. Case in point. Dust, what do you think about this, my friend? You could take it in any direction you want. You know, two of your faves combining forces to create something. Where do you go with this?
I've arranged my list here. It's a little bit of a descent into madness. But Dig, you made me think of one that I hadn't written down. You mentioned Kojima, but this was a crossover that almost happened. Of course, Kojima and Junji Ito, which was for the Silent Hills project that was canceled. It's Kojima, Guillermo del Toro.
Right.
I think Guillermo del Toro confirmed that Junji Ito was involved in some degree.
Okay.
He didn't work on the PT demo, apparently, but he was supposed to be involved with the full project, and that would be incredible. In fact, I just want Junji Ito involved in a legit AAA video game, a horror game at some point. That just would be amazing as like the art director or something. Along those lines as well, which I guess a little preface, for me with crossovers, I'm more interested about like talent working together to create something. I think I'm like crossovered out in terms of the end product in general.
I get that.
And I think that if there's crossovers, I prefer it to be kind of like a non-canon event where it's like kind of a separate fun thing. I know that One Piece has done this a few times where I think there's like a Dragon Ball crossover episode that's just like its own little fun thing. I haven't seen that, but I need to watch that.
Oh, I didn't know that existed. That sounds cool.
Yeah, there's some kind of Dragon Ball One Piece crossover episode that sounds cool. So in line with what I was saying earlier, the Dream production with the Dream IP, of course, I'm not the first person to say this, Studio Ghibli making a Legend of Zelda movie. People have done mock-ups of this in the Ghibli style, and it would be an absolute dream to see that. It's like the most perfect pairing. But I mean, respect to Studio Ghibli, where I don't know if they've ever worked on someone else's IP.
Yeah.
I know that Miyazaki initially got, I think one of the first movies he directed was Lupin the Third, one of the Lupin the Third movies.
Yeah, Castle of Cagliostro, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
and
awesome.
So that was pre-Ghibli era.
Yes. Yep.
So after that, I mean, of course, there's, a huge amount of respect for only doing your own ideas. But to see that Ghibli style applied to Legend of Zelda would be incredible.
It's perfect.
It would never happen.
Marriage. No, I don't think so. Despite their roots, like they all come, like a lot of those Nintendo, Miyazaki and Miyamoto, like they all come out of the same. I don't want to say the same art schools. It's not that. They all come out of they share common beginnings.
Yeah.
Before Ghibli was established and before Nintendo became what it became, and the other animation studios and anime and video games, like it's all connected. Those guys know each other.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. But I agree, it'll never happen.
Apparently, Miyazaki's still working on another film, which is that guy's going to die at the animation table.
100%.
And hey, I think he would be happy about that. So good for him. But take a break if you need to, Miyazaki. Take a break. You don't have to. You've given us so much. But okay, moving along here with our descent into madness. Wouldn't it be crazy if in a new Kingdom Hearts game there was a crossover with Final Fantasy? This was what I was alluding to earlier, that Kingdom Hearts 3 lacked until the DLC, the crossover with Final Fantasy. And so I want to see Final Fantasy 16 Clive hanging out with Sora. I want that desperately. I really hope it happens. Unfortunately, it seems like we're going to get Star Wars in the next Kingdom Hearts game. So I don't love it, but I think that's just my general distaste of Star Wars right now. But I'm thinking about, Sora, or like imagine Donald Duck interacting with Han Solo, like, or something. And I'm like, okay, all right, I'm in for that level of insanity.
Nightmare fuel.
That is insanity.
The next two, these will never happen. But I was thinking, Dagan, you said dream crossovers.
Yeah, this is your fantasy.
I'm not the first person to bring this up. In fact, I didn't think of this. I saw a tweet about it, how someone said that the Muppet Christmas Carol is very much in line in the styles of Bloodborne. So imagine a Muppet crossover with Bloodborne. You've Kermit. He's the hunter. You have the different monsters in Bloodborne being Muppets. And in fact, to kind of expand this out a little bit, I want to see Muppet versions of basically any movie ever, like a Muppet Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's a little too crazy, but they were really onto something in the 90s with doing like Muppet Christmas Carol, Muppet Treasure Island.
Yeah.
They kind of did that. It wasn't a Muppets The Office, but they did a version of the Muppets that was like The Office. So
yeah,
I want to see the Muppets pretty much do anything that's like a crossover. So that would be cool.
And Disney does nothing with them with Henson.
Well, nothing but garbage.
They tried. They brought it back. They brought the Muppet Show back even a couple of years ago.
I didn't know that. Oh, the Jason Segel involved in that?
No, that was the movie.
The movie I remember.
That was the only good thing they did.
That movie was good.
Yeah.
I like the sequel too, with Tina Fey and Ricky Gervais. You didn't like it?
No, I did not like it.
I didn't see the sequel.
I wasn't into it.
I think both of those movies flopped, right? Like, didn't they?
That's a good question. I can look up
the
that.
First one did good.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
Speaking of dream crossovers, that was a dream crossover in that they had Brett McKenzie from Flight of the Conchords make the music, and that's like amazing.
That's cool.
That's like cool. A perfect crossover right there.
That makes sense.
I have one more deprived crossover that I dreamt up. I was thinking about Silent Hill and how I mentioned Silent Hill earlier, but I was thinking about how Silent Hill is kind of like a hell that people go to be tortured for the sins they've committed. It's like, who better than Tony Soprano in Silent Hill? Imagine him reacting to the different situations. Maybe like one of the whores is like guiding him along. One of the whores that he bedded. I think there's a lot of potential here where Tony has to deal with the things that he's done in Silent Hill. So,
Dustin, let me ask you though.
Yeah.
You got to answer this one. Would this acknowledge that he lives after the end of the series, or is this set before Sopranos?
How spoilery do we want to get here?
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. Well, you can make it here.
Not really spoiler, because really the series ends. I mean, it's kind of
everybody knows, right?
I mean, you kind of know, but it's not confirmed. Right.
There is also a Silent Hill kind of episode in The Sopranos.
Oh, you know what? I know what you're saying. Yeah.
It's his dream episode, right?
Oh, dude, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
very good. So,
okay.
I think there could be some there. I made a marker here for Sopranos spoilers. I think this is the canon, like post. This is the sequel.
Post Diner.
Post Diner. Okay. Yeah, this is the post Diner. In the outcome that I think, that he's gone. So, and I marked this with a spoiler, so there's timestamp. But yeah, he's paying for his sins in Silent Hill.
That's awesome.
I gotcha.
Maybe there could be something there. Boys,
that's so cool.
You had fun with this.
I saved the best one for last, but this one, it is a fantasy, but it's not crazy. It's not funny. It's just a dream of mine. And that is the Red Letter Media Last Stand crossover.
Oh.
That's my dream crossover.
Wow.
Someday. Colin and I have talked about this a million times, that we love those guys.
Oh,
I watch them all the time. I watch every episode of Best of the Worst. I'm obsessed with it. And I feel like there would be a good synergy between us at some point. I don't know. We're probably too small to hang with the big boys of Red Letter Media, but as I've said, I've said it before, but like, man, if we could ever collaborate with them in some way, that's the dream.
Love it.
But,
I was hoping. I was kind of hoping, secretly, not so secretly, hoping you were going to bring that up. Yeah,
dude,
they're the best. They're just the best. They're the gold standard. I can't even explain why. Rich Evans, you're delightful.
Oh yeah,
make me smile. Dude,
did
just
you watch
makes me smile.
The recent episode of Best of the Worst? I can't remember his name. He's a guy. He's like a guy that does voiceovers and did.
Yeah, they've had him on a couple of times. I can't remember his name either, but yeah, he's a big voiceover guy.
They watched this like video of Arnold Schwarzenegger in Brazil, where he's basically like sexually assaulting women in it, and
did not age well.
It did not age well. They watch it. It's so good. The most recent Best of the Worst, highly recommend it. But yeah, I think it would be so cool to do something with them someday, but I don't think it will happen, but it's a dream.
I like it. Hey, this segment, this topic is all about dreams. It's dreaming. You got to dream big. I love the dynamic of creators too. Like you were saying, Dustin, earlier, Ito and Kojima, like there's something really crazy about that. Like two absolute chefs having to share a kitchen. First of all, going kind of when you're as big as those guys or specific rock stars or film directors like Tarantino and whoever he collaborates with, like let's say Tarantino and I don't know, who's another big film director? Chris Nolan, Wes Anderson. I don't know. Take your pick. Two guys, especially kind of coming from different worlds, agreeing to collab on something. Just the fact that they're agreeing to it, I think, is really cool because they're used to kind of seeing through their vision. Now you're kind of relinquishing your vision of 50% to the other person. So there's a certain energy in that, and just going in for that is admirable, I think, especially when you're at that level. But also like recipe for potential disaster. Too many cooks in the kitchen. Two cooks of that level might be too many.
This has given me an idea for, I mean, this probably would work on a Sacred Symbols Plus episode. It's like you can give any developer any IP. Like what developer would you want to see? Like, if id made a Halo?
That's a great topic.
Or something like that.
That has been a topic.
Have we done that before?
I remember this. I remember watching this at some point or listening to this at some point. Somebody did this topic on Constellation, I think, at some point.
Really? Is that right?
Or somewhere at some point. Yeah, I'm sure of it.
I should remember that.
Maybe it was Summons. No, Summertime is too young.
You might be right.
Ago.
It might have been on Constellation.
But a long time. I think a long time ago, though. Or maybe it was.
You're being nice. It can't be that long ago. It's show's only been going on.
I think I remember Dustin. I think maybe it was on Sacred Symbols, the main show. I don't know. It maybe I'm just wrong.
This is ringing a bell.
Maybe I'm just wrong.
No, this is definitely ringing a bell. It is a great idea, though. And you know, it has so much legs. Like you could do that topic every month and never repeat yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
This happens often in our company. I mean, when you release 6 shows a week.
Of course. Yeah.
This happened recently with Colin and I, where he had an idea for a Sacred Symbols Plus episode. I was like, we did this exactly like about a year ago. And that happens. I mean, it just happened to me right now and that's why we have the master Constellation document with all the topics. Because
is that list updated? I haven't looked at it in a while. I'll be honest.
Believe it's up to date. I have it saved on my other computer.
Okay.
But shout out James Solar, keeping that document going.
Awesome.
Shout out James. Is it 6 episodes of things per week, like 6 shows per week? Is that where Last Stand Media is at right now?
Yes.
I don't think I realized it was that many.
Yeah. So let's see. So there's Summon Sign, Punching Up, Finding Duke, Sacred Symbols, Constellation, Sacred Symbols Plus every week. So
are they doing Punching Up every week?
They are.
Oh, I didn't even realize. Oh, now that the Switch 2 is in the offing?
Now the Switch 2 is.
Oh, makes sense. Yeah. Whew. Quantity over quality. That's Last Stand Media's.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right.
How dare you? You know it's all quality, baby. Well done, you guys. I mean, I could think of a lot. I do. I know what Dustin's saying though. I definitely pick up on that tab. Like, there's something really cool about two creators getting together, and people that we lost. You know, I'm always waxing nostalgic about that. Like, think of what Jim Henson could have done now. If he was, speaking of Muppets, right? If he was still alive, if he could get involved in a video game project, you know, Henson and Kojima.
Whoa.
You could just get weird with it. You could just get weird with this whole game.
The Muppets are at the Game Awards the past 2 years, if that counts.
Yeah.
Being not funny. But they're there.
Just imagine like Muppenheimer. You know, it's Oppenheimer, but
for the kids,
cast the Muppets in there. Maybe here's the key to the success of the Muppet crossover films is you would need, what's his name, Cillian Murphy, right? Mm-hmm. He's in it, and he plays it exactly like he does in the standard film, much like Michael Caine played Scrooge, very seriously. And then you have the Muppets around the main character being themselves.
Being the Muppets.
Yeah.
You might have something here.
That's awesome.
That's really great.
I'm in.
The Muppets need that they need that infusion of life. Right? They kind of, maybe they have it and they're just not allowed to exhibit it. I don't know what's going on under Disney, but that's the one you don't hear a lot. You know, you hear plenty about Marvel, you hear plenty about Star Wars. I think they bought Henson before any of those.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe they'll show up in Kingdom Hearts, Dustin. Maybe you'll get the Muppets.
I would be down. Dude, I would be so down. Imagine Kermit with a Keyblade. Man. Okay.
That seems more, I don't want to say it sounds more apt to happen than Star Wars. Like, it sounds more appropriate somehow than Star Wars in a way.
Yeah.
Plus, like, Miss Piggy, man, she's not used to this. She's used to living high in the hog. No pun. You know, she's got to they need a little something, man. Muppets need help.
This is the thing that, not that I want to start an entire conversation about AI, because I know we could, but I don't like how AI steals from people. I don't like how people say that it's an original work. I don't like all that stuff.
Sure.
There's a small part of me that, imagine 30 years from now when it's all we see is AI, then I'm like, what if, even if I could just tell it, like, make a Legend of Zelda Studio Ghibli movie, and I don't even need a whole movie, and I don't think it would be amazing, but it's like, I could see that proof of concept.
Yes.
That would be kind of cool. But there's too many negative implications that I don't actually want that. But we're like, remake Lord of the Rings as an 80s fantasy film.
Somebody made a
Someone
trailer.
did something kind of like that.
That looked amazing. Yeah.
It looked really cool, but it's like one of those like, you like the idea of it, but the actual, it would be terrible. So it's like not healthy for the world.
I sadly don't think you're going to have to wait 30 years. I think 3 months or 3 years will be enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sadly, you're right. Yeah. Yeah, man. This topic could go on forever. It makes you kind of grateful for the things we haven't seen yet. Like the I'm looking at my shirt. The live action version of Akira. Like, I just don't want it. Just don't.
No.
Just don't. No. Just don't do it.
Are they making it?
This thing has been in development hell for decades. Yeah.
Because they made Ghost in the Shell with
they did. Johansson. Yeah, I always forget about that. I never saw that.
I feel like that wasn't that bad.
It was okay.
I kind of liked it from a visual standpoint.
You saw it? I never saw it.
I don't have a huge reverence, though, for Ghost in the Shell. I like it.
Yeah.
But that's like, I wonder, wasn't there a thing that they were going to do Perfect Blue?
Maybe.
I hope they never make Perfect Blue live action. Honestly, they kind of already did with Black Swan, but.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
Dude, Perfect Blue. Locke. Well, no, I know you haven't seen Perfect Blue.
I have. Is that the one? I don't want to give it away. A friend of mine, I'm pretty sure this is the one that a friend of mine made me watch. Does it involve, I don't know how to say it nicely. Does it involve like abuse, like rape?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's the one I've seen.
Like a J-pop star.
Yeah.
Deals with people that are abusive and
Yep.
she goes crazy. So
Yeah.
Oh, it
I've
is
seen
kind
it.
of black.
excellent. It's so good.
So somebody just sent me that they have a Gundam thing in development for live action. And I don't know which story, if it's Char's Counterattack or early Gundam or whatever, the initial like Amaru Ray and Char and Aznable and all those. I don't know like what they're doing, but like I know where, if they're going to do that, where they should start. I don't know if they're doing it that way. And I don't know. There's just something special about it doing an animated form. Like, you know, they did Pacific Rim. Yeah, it doesn't look, you know, like giant robots should look like we got Evangelion. Like that's how giant robots should look now. If you can't do that in live action, then don't do it. You know what I mean?
If they ever attempt to make an Evangelion live action,
don't.
It's one of those things. Well, I mean, I guess they made a One Piece live action and I watched it. And
how was that?
Better than I expected.
That's good.
But not, I don't want it as a product in general. Like I don't need One Piece in live action. And they fucked around with some of the pacing of the story and some weird stuff that I did not like, but it's okay. They will never do the entire show. Like it's never going to happen that the live action show is going to be successful enough. They're doing, apparently season 2 just wrapped, but
they're doing more.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, it was successful. And that's the thing, is that it's like, it's not bad. It really is not. I expected so much worse because you have a main character that's a rubber man. And it's like, how is that going to look in live action? And honestly, it looked not horrendous, but it still was weird. And there's going to be stuff later on that's like, how are they even going to get close to doing this without it looking absolutely absurd? So I don't know. But never touch Evangelion. If they touch that, dude,
they can't. They just can't. You can't do the angels and the Avas and everything. It would be impossible. I mean, One Piece makes sense. I think they had, after Cowboy Bebop and the disaster that was, I think they had to make One Piece good. And One Piece lends itself to a certain level of cartooniness anyway, but still a very specific tone and flavor. Like I'm not interested in seeing like live action remakes of manga and anime. I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen any.
You should watch Dragon Ball Evolution.
Is that a thing?
It was a live action Dragon Ball movie made in like 2010.
I've seen clips of that.
It is so bad, but I've seen it a few times because it's like a so bad it's good situation.
Yeah.
It's worth watching.
Okay, that sounds fun actually.
It's disrespectful for sure. So you just got to go in with knowing that it's just horrendous.
Oh my God. And Toriyama was still alive, like well alive for that. Like, what did he think? Oh, that's a shame.
It's bad.
That's an absolute shame. Well, listen, boys, any other ideas for this? We happy sunsetting this topic? I'm pleased. You guys did it justice.
I think we're good.
All right. Well, that's it. I'm going to go around. Just 3 today. We know you miss Colin. You love Colin. We talked about it before the show. You know, we can't relate to it, but for some reason you love the dude. It's fine. He pays the bit. He pays us. I mean, I guess say that for the guy, right? You guys love him. I think he had other obligations today. I think the conceit is that he would still be on more of these than he won't be on, right? But we'll see going forward. But I think Colin will probably be back next week. And he'll be on the majority of Constellation episodes. And, you know, he does the freeloading thing. He comes in, he swings like who the hell he is. He doesn't bring a topic. Just freeloads on everybody else's topic. And that's how he does it. You know? Low lift. Colin Low Lift Moriarty. That's what we're going to call him. Dustin, son of Colin. I'll kick it to you first for goodbyes, weekend plans, all that stuff.
Yeah, goodbye. This was fun. Glad I got to talk to you guys for a bit. Tonight, I think my parents are coming over and we're going to watch The Last Crusade. So we've been rewatching those over the last few months. So we're going to watch that. And I'm going to play Civilization 7. So that's exciting. And then the Super Bowl Sunday, which
Yes.
I'm one of those people I'll be watching for the Kendrick Lamar halftime show, and to eat food.
That's right.
It's
You're a
my
fan.
intention. No disrespect to sports and football at all, but I have my needs. And sports fans have theirs, and so my needs are food and and Kendrick Lamar. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, that's about it. So thanks for having me, and great to talk to you guys.
Yeah, it was fun. I forgot Kendrick was playing the halftime show. You know, did you guys see the meme going around? It's like some post-apocalyptic scene from some film, some World War III footage of like a city being destroyed, and it's Philadelphia, whether the Eagles win or lose.
Oh yeah,
Which is about that checks out. That
Oh, yeah, we didn't talk about that plane crashing in the middle of Philadelphia.
dude.
I was looking. I'm like, I don't think that's close to Dagan at all. But
No,
surely,
it's not.
have you been around that area? Like,
Yeah, that area, it's scary because that area of North Philly, it's kind of right where the burbs meet North Philadelphia, like the city limits. It's very, very crowded there. Very busy area. Like I'm from Long Island, like land of strip malls and congestion, and that area makes me nervous driving.
mm-hmm.
Like it's really built up with homes and strip malls, and I think the Roosevelt Mall's over there. Yeah, it's a very busy area. So when we first heard where it was like Cotman and whatever the cross streets were. It's like, holy shit, Cotman Avenue is like, it would almost be better if it crashed in Center City. Like there's so many people there in that specific region. And that crater, like the aftermath.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, this isn't funny, but this is, if you guys know, loyal listeners may know my friend PJ. He finds the craziest shit. So as soon as it happened, he sent me a video. I don't even know where he found it. There was a guy at the Wendy's drive-thru right there where the plane crashed, ordering Wendy's, and just said, fuck it, and just like drove off without his order. And I was like, only PJ would find this clip immediately. I don't even know where the hell who even could post it this quick, and sends it to me, And I was like, yeah, that's what that area looks like. It's just up and down, just strip malls, fast food restaurants, busy, congestion, especially that time of day where it happened. I think it happened like just after 6 p.m. So just insane. And it came right on the heels of what happened in DC.
Yeah.
So it was extra weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very sad. Very, very sad. Super sad. But the aftermath, like that crater that it left right on the cusp of like where that was, like an outdoor parking lot, parking garage or whatever. Just insane. Absolutely insane. Yeah, man. It's crazy though that, I guess you and I were talking, Dust, on a Constellation 2 or 3 weeks ago, of like how people that aren't from your area don't have like a geographic knowledge of your region. So people were like checking. I was like, I'm in Bucks County. Like I'm not in the city, but I am in the state of Pennsylvania. So in that sense, you're close. But like, yeah, people, it's like me checking in on people in Southern California. They're like, dude, I'm 45 miles from the fires. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of that, but hopefully no one was checking in on you in Pittsburgh, Dust. That would have been a bit much.
Yeah. I didn't get any of that for this one, but
but Super Bowl plans, yeah, we're a little worried about. I'm a Philly fan, but I'm not a Philly sports fan, so it's very strange for me. Like I'm not invested in the Eagles, but I'm invested in Philadelphia. I'd like the city to remain intact, win or lose. That's where my thoughts and prayers go. Right. So that's it. And who cares about Kansas City? Honestly, I know T-Swizzle does, but beyond her. Right? Locke, give us we're talking very, very American stuff right now. Give us a little European, much needed European flavor going out.
European flavor.
Well, give us whatever kind of flavor you want.
We don't have the Super Bowl here this weekend, but it is slowly coming over because I have a couple of friends who have like Super Bowl parties, even though nobody watches football here. So I guess we're just.
That's interesting.
I guess that they just see. It's the same thing with Halloween, right? Like we see it on TV shows, and then we think here, oh, we can do that too, but we don't really know what it's about. So everybody just dresses up, but nobody rings the doorbell, or there's no trick or treating or whatever. So just like a fake copy of the Super Bowl parties you guys have, I guess. And then they pretend they like it, I guess. So that's what I'm gonna do on Sunday evening. I'm gonna go to one of my friends who has one of those parties, but I can't imagine we're watching the game because that's at like 3 a.m. for us or 1 a.m.
Oh, right.
Whatever.
Right.
So,
You can't watch that live. Not really.
No, so we're just gonna get drunk, I guess, and pretend we're doing something else. But no, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. It was again, it wasn't planned. I was supposed to come on, I think, next week or in 2 weeks. So I don't know who's on that, but Brett will take my place then, I guess. But it was great seeing you guys. I love you guys. It's always fun to see you.
We love you too. Listen, you saved the day. I didn't realize you were going to swap with Brad. I guess that makes sense, right? Now he's got to do your thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Or at least I think that. I don't know what's happening. I literally, I was sitting here. I was thinking, I'm going to go to dinner. Messages popped up everywhere. I said, oh, yeah, sure, I'll do it.
Now, Locke, were you not really wanting to go to dinner? So this was
no, exactly. This was a very. Oh no, I can't say that because maybe they'll watch this. No, I wanted to go to dinner very much, but this was more important. So
yeah, but are you starving now?
I still have to eat. Yes,
you gotta eat, my friend.
All you've got in your stomach is that shitty coffee.
Exactly.
You're gonna die.
That's exactly why I drank it, because I felt a little bit sick after I drank it. And I figured, well, this is perfect because now I don't have to eat dinner.
Oh, dude, we got to let you go. Listen, when you come, Locke's talking about the Super Bowl and the influence of Western culture in Europe. I say this as an American. I say this as a proud American. United States, stop encroaching our stupid culture onto Europe. They're elegant.
No, it's our fault, dude. Your culture is awesome.
They're rich in history. We're ruining it. Don't accept it, Locke. I want Europe to stay Europe. Right? Very important. Very important. I'm going to make it over there and see you guys eventually. I have a lot of love for Europe. I really do. Not like Kyle. Now listen, indulge us in a bit of house cleaning, then we're going to let Locke go eat. All right, my friends? That's our time. It was fun. I appreciate you two very much. Patreon.com/laststandmedia for early ad-free access. As always, and laststandmedia.store has the merch. Listen, for Locke and Dust, I'm Dagan Moriarty saying thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you. We love you. We'll see you next week. The weeks go fast. We'll be doing this again in no time. Listen, enjoy it. Savor the moments, my friends. Go Eagles. Go Birds. Whatever. That's fine. I mean, I gotta put that in there. I got to keep up appearances, my friends. And that's it. We'll see you next time. In the meantime, go listen to your second favorite podcast. Goodbye.
Constellation is a product of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show was conceived by and is directed and hosted by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-host is my brother, Dagan Moriarty. The show is produced by Last Stand's executive producer, Dustin Furman. All Last Stand theme music is by Ramon Narvaez, and all of our graphics and logos are by Dagan Moriarty. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's podcasts, including Constellation, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest support tier, and we're infinitely grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor.